Chapter 166. Kacha. No one spoke again, and they even forgot to breathe. In addition to the voice of a popular female singer who was singing passionately through the national talent show, there was only this creepy sound of eating glass. Moreover, the voice of the female singer had been completely ignored. There was only one rhythm and one sound in everyone's ears. Kacha, kacha, kacha. Renjin's eyes widened and her mouth opened wide, looking at the man who was chewing glass in disbelief. Was he really eating the glass that he used to drink tea with? How could such a thing be eaten? Wasn't he afraid of cutting his throat? The nanny's psychological endurance was even weaker. She pointed at Fang Haohen and trembled without saying a word, as if she had seen a ghost. It was also the first time that Lu Chaoge saw such a heroic side of Fang Haohen. She looked at Fang Yen with a surprised expression, thinking, what kind of strange people are this guy's friends? The most normal reaction was Fang Yen and Fang Yinging. They were used to Fang Haohen's behavior. Fang Haohen eating glass was not new, but Fang Haohen not eating glass was weird. Originally, Fang Yen thought that eating glass in other people's house was a very impolite behavior, but because Renjin was very rude to him, Fang Yen thought that it was a good thing to let Fang Haohen eat 2 glass of his. At least, Fang Yen felt very happy when he saw Renjin's shocked and scared expression at this moment. Fang Yen was a kind man. He couldn't stand others making him feel wronged. Kacha. After Fang Haohen ate a small half of the glass, the soaked tea leaves in the glass and the small half of the cup of tea became a burden. Hero Fang thought for a moment, then tilted his head back and drank the tea in one gulp. Then, he poured the tea leaves into his palm and put them into his mouth, chewing noisily. Renjin's face turned green. This is the cup she used, this is the tea she drank? Is this rogue indirectly kissing me? How can you eat those tea leaves? Renjin said angrily. Fang Yen felt that this woman's perspective was really unique. She didn't care why others ate the cups, but she cared why others ate her tea leaves. Was it common sense that tea leaves were harder to digest than glass? It's okay. Don't worry about him. Fang Yen comforted her. Tea leaves are rich in polyphenol, amino acids, and catechins. They are good for the body. Kacha. Fang Haohen stuffed the rest of the glass shards into his mouth. After chewing and swallowing, he wiped his mouth and said to Fang Yinging, I'm not full yet. Fang Yinging patted Fang Haohen's shoulder and said, leave some room for steak and fruit salad. Renjin felt that her heart was twitching. Listen, what are these 2 guys talking about? They ate my cup, drank my tea, and now they want to eat my family's steak and fruit salad. Renjin pointed at Fang Yinging and Fang Haohen and shouted, get out of here. Our family doesn't welcome you. Fang Yinging looked at Fang Haohen with a complaining look and said, I told you to bear with it. Look at how angry you are. Old lady, don't be angry, it's easy to get wrinkles when you are angry. How about we ask Junior Marshal Uncle to buy you a glass? Old lady? Renjin felt like she was struck by lightning. Everything else was ignored by her. Her mind kept repeating the 3 blood-red words old lady. Old lady? How could they call her old lady? She had beautiful black hair, pink skin, bright eyes, and she also had well-maintained buttocks and breasts. How could he call her an old lady? Renjin's first reaction was to immediately find a mirror and look at herself in the mirror to see if there was anything wrong with her dress today. Otherwise, why would someone be so blind as to mistake a flirtatious mature woman like herself as an old lady? Fang Haohen, who was accused by Fang Yinging, felt extremely wronged and argued. Hero, you told me to eat something to fill my stomach. I did say that, but didn't you see the old lady was angry? Lu Chaoge. Renjin finally exploded. She shouted with a sharp voice and pointed at Fang Yen, Fang Yinging, and Fang Haohen and said, who are these people? What kind of scoundrels are they? What did I tell you just now? Don't make friends with those people you don't know. You just brought them home to anger me. Lu Chaoge, I usually treat you well, and this is how you treat me? Do you want to anger me to death? Auntie Ren, I didn't mean that. Lu Chaoge said. But you didn't mean that, did you? Lu Chaoge pointed at Fang Yen and said, let him go. Let them all go. I don't want to see them, I want them to disappear in front of my eyes immediately. Auntie Ren, they are my friends. Lu Chaoga said. Ren Jin calmed down. She stared at Lu Chaoga with burning eyes, and then looked at Fang Yen, Fang Yingying, and Fang Haohen as she sneered and said, I understand. Lu Xiaoga, are you bringing people back to flaunt your strength? Auntie Ren, I don't understand what you mean. Lu Chaoga said. You don't understand? Lu Chaoga, you don't remember, do you? I took you to have your IQ tested a long time ago, and I clearly remember your test results. You are such a smart woman, how can you not understand what I mean? Don't take things that happened when you were young seriously. Rin Jin said mockingly, that is to say, all these years of raising and taking care of you were fake? I didn't mean that. Lu Chaoga, it's not that you don't understand, it's that you don't have it. If you have the ability, say it frankly. Why are you hiding it? Don't worry, you brought these 3 clowns to protect you. I can't beat you in a fight, but I can't beat you in an argument. You are safe. Lu Chaoga looked at Rin Jin and asked a question clearly, how did my parents die? Rin Jin was speechless. Lu Chaoga said softly, it's useless to tell you. Lu Chaoga. Rin Jin looked angrily at Lu Chaoga and said, I understand. You have always hated us, always suspected us. You always thought that we killed your parents. Am I right? You suspect the people closest to you? Your mind is really vicious. No wonder you always put on a dead face, no wonder you always ignored us, no wonder you didn't want to come back after you went abroad, no wonder you didn't want to accept when I wanted to betroth you to Jiang Zhulu to make us closer. So it's because of this. So many years of love are going to be erased just because of your suspicion? Lu Chaoga, do you have a conscience? Are you cold-blooded and heartless to this extent? Lu Chaoga looked at Rin Jin and said, Aunt Ren, what do I have to say to make you understand? You don't have to say anything, I already understand. How do I express myself to make my counterattack more powerful? Lu Chaoga continued to ask. You do treat me well, but there's a hint of hypocrisy in your smile. You don't treat me well because you like me, but because of your status and reputation. I understood this a long time ago. How many times have you quarreled with Uncle Jiang because of me? How many times have you suspected that I had an improper relationship with him? You told everyone that I was the best candidate for your daughter-in-law. Didn't you want to cut off the possible relationship between me and Uncle Jiang? Do you think this is how you treat me as your own daughter? You are good to me, Uncle Jiang is good to me, Jiang Zhulu is also good to me, so my life should be arranged by you. What should be said, what shouldn't be done. It's all up to you. I wanted to study abroad after high school, but you all opposed it. Didn't you agree in the end? What kind of effort did I put in for this? Lu Xiaoga asked. You forcibly took me back from the United States. Did you care about what I thought? You forcibly arranged for me to be your daughter-in-law. Did you consider my feelings? Or, do you care whether I like him or not? Yes, it's because you treat me well that I can't resist. Because my parents died early, I was raised and taken care of by you. I have to live for your wishes. Is that right? Do you understand how I feel? Every time you peel an apple for me, I will think about what you are going to ask from me. Every time you personally cook a bowl of noodle soup for me, I have to think about what kind of deal is behind this bowl of noodle soup. So, I don't want to talk more and more, my life is getting more and more depressed. Every day when I wake up, I feel that my skin is stiff, the air is thin, and even breathing is difficult. Auntie Ren, do you know that I have depression? Do you know that I have seen a psychiatrist? Do you know that I have thought about suicide? Rin Jin's expression was dull. She really didn't know about this. Fang Yen was also stunned for a moment. The strong and cold Principal Lu actually had the thought of suicide? She also had such a weak moment? Even so, you still think that I don't know how to be grateful, and that I am heartless to you all? Lu Chaoga looked at Rin Jin like a knife and said, Auntie Ren, I think you don't understand what is called gentle violence, right? Chapter 167. Phew. After saying these words, Lu Chaoga took a long breath of fresh air. Too easy. Too comfortable. How many years had it been? The long days and nights, the days that felt like years, The words that she held back in her heart that were difficult to say, the thorn in her bone, almost tortured her to the point that she was about to go crazy. She was like a silkworm cocoon wrapped in a thin membrane. She wanted to scream, she wanted to struggle and twist with all her might. She wanted to tear everything apart and destroy it, but in the name of love and protection, the thin membrane made it difficult for her to move. Finally, she said what she wanted to say. She was free. Rin Jin's face was as pale as paper. She stared at Lu Chaoga with deep resentment and said, "I didn't expect that I still raised an ungrateful wolf." "Well, Lu Chaoga, since our Jiang family made you so uncomfortable, since we treated you so badly, then tell me, what are you doing back this time?" "Uncle Jiang asked me to come back for dinner," Lu Chaoga said. "Come back?" Rin Jin sneered. "Lu Chaoga, what do you mean by coming back? Come back to your own home, then come back. What you said just now has separated yourself from this family. You are no longer a member of this family, you are just a guest. And a guest who is not welcomed by the host. So, as the mistress of this house, please bring your lowly friends out." Fang Yan was angry and said, "We are Lu Chaoga's friends, but we are not dirty." Fang Ying was also very angry. He slapped Fang Haohen's head and said, "Fang Haohen, go eat another glass." Fang Haohen looked at Fang Yan pitifully, not knowing whether he should eat or not. "Aunt Ren, don't call me Aunt Ren." Rin Jin angrily interrupted Lu Xiaoga's words and coldly said, "Lu Xiaoga, from today onwards, the kindness between us is severed. From now on, we are just strangers, Rin Jin." Lu Chaoga clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. "Please respect my friend." "Get lost." Rin Jin pointed at the door of the villa. "Get out, all of you." Rin Jin turned around and shouted at the nanny, "Are you stupid? Call security." "No need." Lu Chaoga said aloud. "We can walk by ourselves." After that, Lu Chaoga turned around and walked out of the villa. Just now, when Rin Jin called them scum, Fang Yan did not retaliate. Fang Yan felt that he had suffered a loss. Now that he was about to leave, he naturally couldn't leave with a grievance. Fang Yan slapped Fang Haohen's head and shouted, "Fang Haohen, eat all the glasses in their house." Fang Haohen was shocked and said bitterly, "Junior Marshal Uncle, I'm afraid I can't eat." "Then pack it up and take it away." "That's good." Fang Haohen was happy. He really wanted to find the Jiang family's glasses to eat. "Let's eat." Rin Jin laughed wildly. "Eat enough. Eat it all. If you can't finish it, then you're a son of a bitch." "Junior Marshal Uncle, she's cursing," Fang Haohen said. "Then hit her," Fang Yingying shouted. So, Fang Haohen rushed toward Rin Jin angrily. "Go ahead." Rin Jin stood there proudly, raising her beautiful face that could be broken by a single blow. She looked at Fang Haohen with a sneer and said, "Slap me if you can." Fang Haohen was stunned. He turned to look at Fang Yan and said blankly, "Junior Marshal Uncle, did I really slap you?" "Slap." Fang Haohen was slapped in the face. After Rin Jin slapped Fang Haohen, she stared at Fang Haohen with disdain and said disdainfully, "Who do you think you are? Get out of here." Lu Chaoga stopped at the door of the living room. The smile on Fang Yan's face froze. Fang Yingying's fat face was quickly filled with anger. "Bitch, I'll tear you apart." Fang Yingying flew into a rage. He and Fang Haohen were like brothers. Their relationship was much deeper than ordinary people. Hero Fang was bullied and humiliated. This slap in the face was more painful than slapping himself in the face. Fang Yan smiled gloomily and said, "A real man must do what he says." After listening to Fang Yan's words, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen were like tigers and wolves that were released from their shackles. They angrily rushed toward Rin Jin. "Slap, slap, this." The two slaps were the sound of Fang Yingying slapping Rin Jin. This was because Fang Haohen, this simple and honest person, actually reached out and grabbed Rin Jin's long skirt. With just a light pull, the shoulder strap was split into two. Half of Rin Jin's shoulder was exposed to the air. It was snow white and smooth like a young girl. The purple bra strap left a clear flesh mark on her smooth and tender back. It made people look like they were full of the desire to conquer. Time stopped at this moment. Lu Chaoga's mouth was round and round. She looked at this scene in disbelief. The muscles on Fang Yan's face twitched. His eyes were sparkling as he stared at Ren Jin's sexy shoulder and the equally sexy bra strap. I just said it casually. Why did you really tear it? Fang Ying trembled with excitement. This man, Ren Jin's expression was the calmest. She was angry to the extreme, so she was calm to the extreme. She stood there with a face full of arrogance. She stared coldly at Fang Haohen and said, "Tear. Continue to tear." Fang Haohen looked at Ren Jin's eyes. He felt that this woman had a strong power that he couldn't see but could feel. Lu Chaoga came over and put the silk scarf on Ren Jin's shoulder. She said, "My friend didn't do it on purpose. I think he probably didn't expect such a thing to happen." She turned to look at Fang Yan and said, "There are video surveillance cameras in all the public areas of this villa." There were surveillance cameras? If Ren Jin insisted that Fang Haohen was plotting against her, it would be really difficult for Fang Haohen to clear his name. Fang Yan quickly jumped out to explain and said, "Yes. Fang Haohen is a bit stupid. He usually likes to do stupid things. Which normal person would eat a glass? Isn't there something wrong with his brain?" Lu Chaoga glanced at Ren Jin and said, "Since we are unwelcome guests, my friend and I will leave first." Lu Xiaoga turned to leave, and Fang Yan quickly walked over to support her, who was still walking unsteadily. Fang Haohen looked at Ren Jin timidly and said, I didn't expect your clothes to be so fragile. They were torn with one tear. I didn't mean that. Let's go." Fang Ying grabbed Fang Haohen's arm and said. Fang Haohen turned around and looked greedily at Ren Jin, who had an inviolable expression, and said, "She is so beautiful. I want to find a wife like her in the future." Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga had just walked to the small courtyard of the villa. Before they had time to get into the car, the door of the villa opened again. Clatter! The electronic door extended to both sides, and then a black Bentley stopped at the gate of the courtyard. The bodyguard in the passenger seat quickly got out of the car, and Jiang Zhulu got out, followed by Qiang Longtan, the chairman of the Longtime group. Qiang Longtan saw Lu Chaoga standing by the car and said with a smile, "Did Chaoga just get here?" "I'm going back," Lu Chaoga said. "Go back?" Qiang Longtan was surprised. "Didn't we agree to have dinner together tonight? I rejected several social engagements just to come back and have a good meal with you. What? You don't want to give me this chance?" I told her to leave. Ren Jin appeared at the door of the living room with a silk scarf draped over her shoulders and said, "They are unwelcome." "Nonsense." Jiang Longtan scolded, "Xiaoga is our family. She's our family. How could she be unwelcome?" Ren Jin looked at Qiang Longtan with a sneer on her face and said, "Qiang Longtan, even if you dig out your heart and liver and feed them to them, it's just like throwing a meat bun at a dog. If you're interested, I have a recording of what she said just now. You can listen to it carefully. You treat her as your family, but she thinks that your home is a prison and wants to run away immediately. Let her go. If she becomes depressed or commits suicide again, who will bear the responsibility?" Qiang Longtan turned his eyes to Lu Chaoga and asked her if what she said was true. Lu Chaoga nodded and said, "Uncle Jiang, let me go. I don't want to have dinner with her. I don't think anyone has an appetite now." Fang Ying and Fang Haohen both wanted to say that they had an appetite. They had been busy for half a day and were still hungry. But Fang Yan stopped them with a look. They swallowed and didn't say anything in the end. Jiang Longtan heaved a deep sigh and said, "Family harmony brings prosperity to all things. I'm responsible for the mess at home. Well, since I can't eat anymore, let's sit down and talk about something. I have to discuss this matter with you personally." Lu Chaoga looked at Qiang Longtan and asked, "What is it?" Jiang Longtan's brows deeply furrowed as he solemnly said, "A lot of things have happened recently. First, you were attacked and then Lu Jing died suddenly. To be honest, I'm under a lot of pressure. I, Qiang Longtan, can say that I have a clear conscience, but I still can't ignore everyone's views and criticism. Everyone outside is saying that I'm the one who did it. They say that I killed him in order to control the whole Longtu group. I know that I'm not that kind of person. The reason why I haven't made that decision is because I think that the power of the whole is the strongest and the most competitive. Qiang Longtan looked at Lu Chaoge with a gentle expression and kind eyes, as if he was looking at his most beloved daughter, and said, I just held a meeting with the company's top management, and a lawyer notarized it on the spot. I'm going to transfer your father's shares to your name. In other words, I'm going to give you half of the Longtu group. You deserve it. Chapter 168. Half of Longtu? Fang Yan opened his mouth slightly, his face full of surprise and joy. What surprised him was that Qiang Longtan was really willing to give away half of Longtu. Although Lu Chaoge's father, Lu Mingtu, had founded Longtu Group with Qiang Longtan, and the company name, Longtu, was taken from Qiang Longtan's and Lu Mingtu's names, Lu Mingtu had used his technology to invest in the company. Moreover, due to his untimely death, the Lu family had long been separated from Longtu Group. The reason why Longtu Group could develop to its current scale was almost single-handedly created by Qiang Longtan. It could be said that Qiang Longtan was fully deserving of the soul and king of Longtu Group. However, Qiang Longtan was actually willing to split the product of his hard work into two and give it to the daughter of an old friend? What surprised him was that with the current market value of Longtu Group and the possible future profits, Lu Chaoge would become a millionaire overnight. Fang Yan originally thought that he had hugged a thick thigh, but in the blink of an eye, this thick thigh had become a giant thigh. As long as Lu Chaoge took over these shares, her name might appear on the next Forbes World's Richest list. In this case, Lu Chaoge would be too embarrassed to take back her Rosefinch courtyard, right? Fang Yan was already full of expectations for his future life. As long as he continued to curry favor with Lu Chaoge and maintain a close friendship and comradeship with Lu Chaoge would bring him to eat, drink, and sleep with big breasts. The problem was, did Qiang Longtan's actions prove that he was really not the murderer who killed Lu Chaoge's parents? Fang Yan felt that his IQ was not enough. The situation in front of him was getting more and more confusing. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan, these two idiots, didn't understand what Qiang Longtan's words meant. Fang Haohan's eyes occasionally glanced at Renjin, who was on the steps. The more he looked at her, the more he felt that this woman was interesting. Fang Yingying was trying to persuade him to give up on this idea, telling him that the women in the city were tigers and that he should avoid them at all costs. Jiang Zhuliu's expression was calm. It seemed like he already knew about his father's actions. Instead, Renjin's expression changed greatly, and he snapped, Qiang Longtan, have you discussed this with me before you made such a decision? Qiang Longtan glanced at Renjin and said with a smile, what's there to discuss? Didn't I just say that? This is what Chaoge deserves. Deserved? Renjin sneered. Then it's really easy for her to earn money. What has the Lu family done for Longtu all these years? What has Lu Chaoge done for Longtu? When you were working overtime at the company day and night, she was studying and traveling in the United States with a designer bag on her back. When you were begging for help with a glass of wine in your hand, she was fulfilling her dreams and hobbies at school. Who developed Longtu? Without you, Qiang Longtan, would Longtu be what it is today? Would Longtu be what it is today? Would Longtu be as valuable as it is today? She was living a pure and innocent life, and everyone took care of her. Now you've given away half of Longtu with just a few words. Qiang Longtan, let me tell you, I don't agree. Qiang Longtan smiled bitterly and said, Renjin, don't make trouble out of nothing. I've already held a board meeting before I came back, and now this decision has been approved by the board. Make trouble out of nothing? Renjin's expression was extremely ugly. Anyone who heard that their husband had given away billions of assets to someone else would have such a reaction. Moreover, this was a woman she hated very much. At that time, the investment in Longtu was made by me. According to the laws and regulations of joint property, I own half of your shares in Longtu. So, I also have the right to vote. My attitude is that I don't agree. Okay. Qiang Longtan's expression turned serious and said, I'll explain this to you later. That's settled. Qiang Longtan turned around and shouted, Jiang Zhulu. Jiang Zhulu came forward and took out a document from the file bag in his hand and handed it over. Qiang Longtan took the document and handed it to Lu Chaoge, saying, Chaoge, take this document back and have a look. The shares will take effect after you sign it. Lu Chaoga's expression was calm, but she looked at Qiang Longtan thoughtfully. Take it. Qiang Longtan smiled warmly and said, although this sounds a little distant, we'll be working partners from now on. Lu Chaoga took the document from Qiang Longtan's hand and said softly, thank you. You really do owe me a thank you. Qiang Longtan nodded and said with infinite emotion, I've indeed invested too much in Longtu Group, time, energy, and everything. Fortunately, we're still a family. Longtu won't be divided, it's still a strong whole. Yes. Lu Chaoga said, Longtu won't be divided, it's still a whole. It's always been like that. Jiang Zhulu walked up to Lu Chaoga, smiled elegantly, and said in a very gentlemanly manner, Chaoga, congratulations. To be honest, I'm a little uncomfortable with my father's decision. That's half of Longtu we're talking about. But I still have to congratulate you. As my father said, you deserve it. The Jiang family isn't as greedy as people think, and we don't covet other people's things. Now that you've gotten back what belongs to you, I hope you'll be able to let go of the knot in your heart and be truly happy. Pausing for a moment, he glanced at Fang Yen beside him and said, also, I want to say that I haven't given up. My pursuit of you has just begun. Why are you saying that? Qiang Longtan waved his hand and said, I'm innocent. There's nothing to explain. But I won't get involved in your pursuit of Chaoga. That's between you young people. Chaoga, there's something I need your help with. Once the contract comes into effect, we'll need to hold a press conference to announce the change in ownership. Is that okay with you? No problem, said Lu Chaoga. Good. Qiang Longtan nodded. It's settled. If it's not convenient, I won't force you to stay for dinner. I'm tired. I'll let Zhulu drive you. Qiang Longtan waved his hand and walked up to Rin Jin, who was standing on the steps, looking exhausted. Lu Chaoga's car started up slowly, and the light from the back of the car shone on the wall, Qiang Longtan, Rin Jin, and Jiang Zhulio's faces. The light flickered on and off, and the expressions on their faces changed. It had been raining for a few days, and the nights in Huaqing were damp and cool. 19-Step Street used to be narrow and short, and people who had nothing better to do would only need 19 steps to walk the entire length of the street. Of course, 19-Step Street was no longer what it used to be. It was now one of the busiest streets in Huaqing. A young man and a young woman walked on 19-Step Street, attracting the attention of countless onlookers. Some people even took out their phones and tried to take pictures of them. The girl looked to be about 18 or 19 years old. She wore a simple white dress, a pair of red leather shoes, and a long leather shawl. She didn't have any accessories on her, but everyone who saw her felt that she was elegant and noble, and they forgot about the world. The man standing next to her gave off a strange feeling. He was slightly older than the girl, and he wore a white casual outfit. He couldn't be considered handsome, and his facial features weren't exquisite. His eyes looked a little too small, his lips looked a little too thick, and his nose didn't meet the standards of a male god that girls expected. However, when all these flaws were put together, it gave off a feeling of perfect harmony. He wasn't cold or handsome, but he had a unique aura. Even when he was walking with the girl next to him, no one thought that he would lose points or be a flower stuck in cow dung. They should be together. That was what everyone thought. The two of them walked aimlessly, their eyes focused on the road in front of them. They didn't look left or right, nor did they have the intention to shop. They looked more like they were walking than shopping. You're so boring, Chinitin said. The man smiled shyly, revealing two deep dimples on his face. He touched his nose and said embarrassedly, many people say that. You said you wanted to see the night view of Huaqing? That's why I brought you out. I've already seen it. The man nodded and said, every step we take is the night view of Huaqing. Have you really seen them? The people on this street, the dense crowd, the men and women walking towards us or brushing shoulders with us. Do you really think you've seen them with your own eyes? Qin Etienne said with a cold smile, I'm really curious, what kind of people can catch your eye? We've walked 749 steps on this street. There are 212 men, 1,656 women, and 19 children. There are 3 mothers carrying their children, and 1 pregnant woman. She continued, We've walked 749 steps on this street, and there are 212 men, 1,656 women, and 19 children. Oh, we walked past 2 Nike stores and 2 opticians. I didn't pay much attention to the rest. After all, I'm really not very interested in these things. The man said with a smile. He still looked like a shy little boy when he smiled. Qin Etienne sighed softly and said, "They say you have a photographic memory and that your mental calculation ability is unparalleled in the world. Looks like it's true." "You also have a lot to learn from me," the man said. "The people around me keep telling me that." "What do you think you need to learn from me?" Qin Etienne asked. "I don't make tea as well as you do, don't dress as well as you do, don't have a grasp of fashion, don't sing, don't dance, and don't even like to talk." The man lowered his head and said, "I think I have too many things to learn from you, right?" "But you're Jiang Junling." Qin Etienne curled his lips and said, "Huaxia's hero Jiang Junling. Not every outstanding young man can get such an evaluation, right?" Chapter 169. The Tao addict, song transplanting seedlings, once said, "Jiang Junling is the first hero of Huaxia." He also said, "The son should be like Jiang Junling, and the adopted daughter must be like Qin Etienne." Because the Tao addict's skill in judging people was the best in the world, Jiang Junling and Qin Etienne, who were greatly praised by him, immediately became famous. Even the young people who had the same status as them, or who had even more illustrious family backgrounds, were far behind them in terms of influence. The Tao addict praised Jiang Junling twice in a row and flattered Jiang Junling as the first hero of Huaxia. But he also put Qin Etienne in the same position as him. Therefore, Qin Etienne's status also rose and became a shining pearl. After listening to Qin Etienne's words, Jiang Junling's shy face became more embarrassed. He shook his head and said, "There are many talents in Yanjing and heroes are like carps crossing the river. Huaxia is a big place with many talents. How can Jiang Junling dare to say that he is the first hero?" Qin Etienne also felt the same way and said, "The Tao addict is harmful." The two benefited from the words of the Tao addict. They could get more attention from all forces. As long as their performance was eye-catching, it was easy to get everyone's approval. With all kinds of resources piled up, it would be hard for one not to become a dragon or phoenix among men. However, they also suffered because of the Tao addict. They were still young and had a free and unrestrained heart. Being stared at by so many pairs of eyes, they also felt a great pressure that could penetrate through any opening. As long as we don't take its false reputation seriously, others won't take us seriously. Jiang Junling said, "The best thing humans are good at is forgetfulness. It's boring to talk to you." Qin Etienne said. Jiang Junling smiled and said, "You are the first person to talk to me like this. Others may think so, but they have never said so." Qin Etienne ignored him and turned to walk into the alley next to the pedestrian street. This alley was a street of snacks. There were juice shops, fruit shops, fried ice shops, fishball shops, and even more barbecue shops. 10 o'clock at night was the time when the barbecue stall's business was at its peak. Countless men and women gathered around the square tables, ordering a few skewers of lamb, chives, and eggplants to go with the wine, playing finger-guessing games and having a great time. Qin Etienne found an empty table and sat down, then shouted, "Boss, order." The proprietress came over with the menu. When she saw Qin Etienne's face clearly, she was stunned. The eloquence that she had developed over the years in the night market suddenly disappeared. It was as if she had suddenly lost the ability to speak. She wanted to praise Qin Etienne, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. For the first time, she felt that praising someone was actually a form of blasphemy. Qin Etienne took the menu and began to look through it. Then he ordered quickly, 4 skewers of beef, 4 mutton skewers, 2 chicken feet, 2 corn, 2 chives, and a portion of white bean sprouts. "Give me 2 mugs of draft beer." "Thank you. Miss, you alone." "I'm afraid you can't finish so much," the proprietress kindly reminded her. Qin Etienne pointed at Jiang Junling and said with a smile, "I have companions. But I'll go prepare now." The proprietress smiled fawningly and trotted away. Qin Yitian waved at Jiang Junling and said, "It's my treat tonight." Jiang Junling smiled but didn't say anything. He stood far away from the barbecue stall and didn't want to move. He didn't want to sit on the greasy stool and accompany Qin Yitian to eat the barbecue food of unknown origin. "Jiang Junling, you still can't put down that stinky attitude?" Qin Yitian said sarcastically. "My attitude isn't stinky. How can it be stinky?" Jiang Junling said with a smile. "Enjoy it. I'll wait for you." "How boring." Qin Yitian looked at Jiang Junling and said. At that moment, the beer that Qin Yitian ordered was served. She picked up 2 mugs of beer and walked straight to the group of men at the next table. She said, "Are you guys playing finger guessing? Count me in." As she spoke, she had already picked up a plastic chair with her foot and sat down. She put the beer on the table and said, "Can we start now?" Silence. Dead silence. The pupils of the blonde skinny boy expanded, the acne on his pigtail opened his mouth wide, the azure dragon tattooed on his left arm and the heavenly wolf tattooed on his right arm, the big fatso who bragged to his friends that he wanted to drink the strongest alcohol, eat the fattest meat, and use the sharpest sword to fuck the sexiest woman, just like the protagonist of a novel by Gu Long. Everyone looked at Qin Yitian in surprise, looking at the woman who suddenly appeared in front of them. They were a little nervous, a little scared, but most of them didn't know what to do. This woman, she can't be a female demon, right? Knowing the background of the people at the table, the lady boss was worried that the delicate girl would be at a disadvantage sitting with them. She was about to come over and give her a friendly reminder, but the scene that unfolded in front of her left her puzzled and confused. The most vicious and greedy gangsters of the 19th Street welcomed such a fat sheep with this kind of attitude? What? You don't want to? Qin Yitian raised her eyebrows and asked. Her frown made the hearts, livers, lungs, and other organs of the gangsters melt. Azure Dragon Sky Wolf looked at Qin Yitian carefully and said, "Girl, we don't know what kind of game you like to play. I'm fine with any kind. You guys can teach me." Qin Yitian said. "Then let's play the 15 to 20 game we just played? Up to you." Start. Azure Dragon Sky Wolf shouted loudly. The others were also excited. With such a goddess on the scene, who wouldn't be on their best behavior? What was that saying again? When men and women pair up, drinking is only enjoyable. While Qin Yitian and the gangsters were having fun drinking and playing finger guessing, Jiang Junling was standing at the place where he had just stopped. His clothes were immaculate, his hair unruffled, his back ramrod straight. He maintained a calm and gentle smile on his face. Even if he had to wait for a long time, he wouldn't look anxious at all. It was only a few meters away, but it was like standing in 2 different worlds. After drinking the beer, he ordered more. After eating the barbecue, he ordered more. As time passed, it was late at night. Qin Yitian finally stood up. "Lady boss, please pay the bill." Azure Dragon Sky Wolf shouted heroically. "Let me do it." Qin Yitian stopped him. "We just agreed that this meal is on me. Sisterton, this is what we men should do." Azure Dragon Sky Wolf wanted to fight for it again. "You can also pay the bill," Qin Yitian said. She pointed to the lady boss and said, "Pay her back the money you owe." The lady boss's face changed and said anxiously, "No need. It's really not necessary. You guys are giving us face by coming here for a meal and a bottle of wine. We can't wait to be happy. It's for us to warm up." She wasn't being modest. She was afraid from the bottom of her heart. These gangsters often fought with each other if they didn't agree. They would smash the tables and chairs, smashing their stall. If they didn't want to pay for the damage, then their hard work for several days would be in vain. If these gangsters just ate and drank, it wouldn't be a big problem for them. You want them to pay? Isn't that suicidal? Listen to what you're saying. Do you think we don't need your money for a meal? Azure Dragon Sky Wolf said with a red face. Since Sister Tian said so, we have to pay. Not only this meal, but also all the money we owe you before. Azure Dragon Sky Wolf took out a bunch of banknotes from his trouser pocket and stuffed them into the lady boss's hand without counting them. He said, "You count first, we'll pay if it's not enough." He then pointed to the lackeys around him and said, "You guys also take out your money." As a result, the lackeys opened their bags one after another. One paid 210, and the other paid 350. They stuffed the money in their pockets into the lady boss's hands. The lady boss didn't dare to take it, but she also didn't dare to not take it. She was in a dilemma where to stand. Azure Dragon Sky Wolf understood the lady boss's thoughts and said, "I know what you're worried about. You're worried that we'll take revenge." "I'm not. I'm really not." The lady boss's explanation was very weak. "Lady boss, don't worry. We won't take revenge. Absolutely not. Not only will we not take revenge, but from today on, your stall will be under my protection. If anyone dares to fight here and eat without paying, they'll have to ask me first if I'm willing." Azure Dragon Sky Wolf looked at Qin Tian and said, "Sister Tian, I know you're not an ordinary person. Don't think that I'm uncultured. My eyes have never been wrong. It's my great fortune to be able to meet Sister Tian at this barbecue stall and to be able to drink and play finger-guessing games with us. It's also the fortune of my brothers. I'm a grateful person. I met Big Sister Tian at Lady Boss's barbecue stall and got the chance to drink with Big Sister Tian. So, I'm going to repay Lady Boss's kindness now. Does Big Sister Tian feel at ease now?" Qin Tian smiled and nodded. She looked at Azure Dragon Sky Wolf with her beautiful eyes and said, "I've never doubted you." Qin Tian waved at them, and the group of gangsters shouted affectionately, "Sister Tian, take care." The autumn wind was bleak, and the lady boss stood in the wind with a handful of banknotes in her hand. Qin Tian walked right past General Jin, not bothering to greet him. Jiang Junling took the initiative to follow him and said with a smile, "Qin Tian, do you think this kind of life is interesting?" "Interesting," Qin Tian said. "I like this kind of life." "Jiang Junling, you're not down to earth." "Why do I have to be down to earth?" Jiang Junling said with a smile. "We and them are not the same kind of people. You sit with them, you drink and play finger-guessing games with them, you call them brothers. But you're still above them. You're always looking down at them, and they're always looking up to you. Isn't that the case?" Jiang Junling smiled brightly, revealing his snow-white teeth, and said, "They can't enter our world, so I won't easily cross into their world." Chapter 170. So you always maintain a high and mighty attitude, like a god? Qin Tian asked. Your so-called fusion, isn't it just another form of being high and mighty? Wherever you go, you change the fate and direction of some people and things. Just like that lady boss. You are also a god. The difference between us is that I am a god who does not do things, and you are a god who does things. I am not a god. Qin Tian said. God is too far away. Have you seen Marvel movies? I am a god with power, just like the hero in those stories. I have such power, why don't I use it to change the fate of some poor people around me and the final outcome of some sad things? I like the feeling of change, as if seeing them reborn in front of my eyes. Jiang Junling smiled and said, I am different from you. After watching those movies, I want to destroy the world more. Destruction is more fulfilling than change. Otherwise, why do people like to smash cups when they are angry? Don't work together when we have different goals. But many people hope that we can finally come together. General Ling smiled and said, that old man Song Zhanxing said that his son should be General Ling's wife, and his adopted daughter must be Qin Yan. That in itself was a sinister move. Who do you think ordered him to do that? Who can instruct Tao Addict? There will always be someone. Jiang Junling said with deep eyes. If there is a dragon, there must be a dragon slayer. If there is a real god, there will also be a god slayer messenger. In a place that we can't see with the naked eye. Are you a man of power? No, I am a man of profit. There is no lack of such people in this world. Qin Tian said. But those people are not willing to admit that they are such people. That's because they are still talking about money at a low level. We are talking about numbers. Jiang Junling, you are so arrogant. Qin Tian, you are the same. Qin Tian's eyes suddenly lit up and he said, Jiang Junling, let me introduce you to a friend. A very interesting friend. Friend? Jiang Junling had just asked when he realized that Qin Yiyan had already walked quickly towards a Hunan restaurant by the roadside. Jiang Junling smiled and followed behind him. Fang Yan, Fang Yingying, and Fang Haohan were burying their heads in the food. They were worthy of being the experts from the old Tai Chi family. The way they picked up the food and the speed at which they picked up the food was beyond the reach of ordinary people. They had wanted to go to the Jiang family's house to eat well-done steak, bread, and dessert, but the Jiang family refused to provide them with food. On the way back, they stopped at the 19th Street for lunch. They planned to go back to sleep after lunch. No one was cooking at home. Lu Chaoga rarely moved her chopsticks. She didn't know if it was because she wasn't interested in the hot and spicy food in front of her or because she was thinking about her own matters. She had just obtained half of Longtu and became a super-rich woman with billions of funds. There were indeed a lot of things she needed to figure out. The most urgent problem was, how was he going to spend so much money? If Fang Yan encountered such a problem, he would definitely be anxious to death. Fang Yan looked up at Lu Chaoga and said, "You don't like spicy food, right? Don't worry, I ordered a vegetarian dish for you." "There is a vegetarian dish? What vegetarian dish?" Fang Yingying asked without looking up with a greasy piece of boiled meat in his mouth. "Tiger skin pepper. You guys eat." Lu Chaoga said, "I'm not hungry." "You still have to eat a little," Fang Yan said. "Only with a good body can you inherit a good fortune. Didn't it say on the internet? The most tragic thing in the world is to have money but not a person." "Fang Yan." Someone shouted behind him. Fang Yan turned around and saw Qin Yiyan pushing open the glass door and coming in. Fang Yan looked at her in surprise and asked, "Qin Yiyan, why are you still here so late?" "Eating," Qin Yiyan said. She looked at Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan, and then looked at Lu Chaoga. She took the initiative to greet and said, "Hello, Principal Lu." Lu Chaoga nodded to Qin Yiyan and said, "Hello, Qin Yiyan." Lu Chaoga was no stranger to the #1 student in the school. "I don't think I'm disturbing you guys, am I?" Qin Yiyan asked with a smile. "You'd better go back quickly," Fang Yan said. Being called by his own student in front of his immediate superior, Fang Yan felt his self-esteem was hit. It would not be good if Lu Chaoga misunderstood that the students in the 9th class didn't respect him. Therefore, he wanted to send Qin Yiyan away as soon as possible. "We're going back after eating. Let me introduce you to my friend." Qin Yiyan glanced at Jiang Junling, who was standing not far behind, and said, "Jiang Junling? Although I know you're not interested in meeting him." "General what?" Fang Yan's eyes widened. "Jiang Junling," Qin Yiyan said. "You came out to meet your online friend?" Fang Yan was shocked. He stood up, looked at Qin Yiyan and said in a low voice, "Qin Yiyan, you have to be careful. The media often reported that girls were cheated of money and sex when they met online friends, and some even lost money and sex. I read a newspaper 2 days ago that a girl's phone was stolen by a male online friend when she was taking a shower after having sex with him. How hateful. How could she chat with others on WeChat without her phone?" There were even more tragic things that Fang Yan was too embarrassed to say. A girl took the train for more than 10 hours to Yanjing to visit her online friend. As a result, the online friend treated her to a 6 yuan spicy hot pot, but had sex with her 12 times in one night. Qin Yiyan smiled and said, "He's not an online friend, and Jiang Junling is not an online name. His surname is General, and his name is Jiang Junling." Fang Yan looked a little embarrassed and said, "This surname is quite rare. There is a surname General among the 100 surnames? I'll have to study it later." Qin Yiyan pointed at Fang Yan and introduced him to Jiang Junling. "Fang Yan, the language teacher of the 9th class, the man I like." Jiang Junling smiled at Fang Yan from afar, but he didn't want to shake hands with him. In his eyes, Fang Yan and he were not the same kind of people. Since they were not the same kind of people, why should they be forced to be together? "Your boyfriend?" Fang Yan asked. There was a sour feeling in his heart. Qin Yiyan used to like him for no reason at all. Why did she suddenly fall in love with someone else? A person should have a beginning and an end, okay? Even if I don't like you, I didn't stop you from liking me. What do you think? Qin Tian's eyes were full of smiles, hidden joy and shyness. Qin Tian could be shy? Seeing Qin Tian's shy look, Fang Yan's heart sank even more. He looked at Qin Tian earnestly and said, "Student Qin, you are a student. Students should focus on their studies. As your language teacher and the head teacher of the 9th class, I have to tell you seriously, you can't have puppy love." Fang Yan looked at Jiang Junling again and said, "Mr. General, this surname is really different. Mr. General is an adult, your thinking is more mature, and your understanding of the world is more comprehensive and profound. I think, as a responsible man, we should give girls more time, wait until they grow up and mature, then listen to their heart's choice. Is that right?" Jiang Junling said with a smile. "Mr. General's character is admirable. I believe you are a good man. You will definitely find your true happiness." Fang Yan said. As for who that true happiness was, no one knew. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan and said, "I think so. If other people don't agree, I think she will be in a difficult position." "What do you mean?" Fang Yan looked at Qin Tian. Which parent would be willing to rush their daughter to find a husband before she grew up and matured? Qin Tian smiled and said, "Maybe he thinks that my parents will be worried about me not being able to get married." "How can that be?" Fang Yan said angrily. "What kind of parents would do that? When will your parents be home? I'll pay them a home visit and talk to them." "They're not in Huaqing." Qin Tian refused. "But you will definitely meet them. I promise. I'm a teacher, no matter how busy they are, they have to make time to meet me, right?" Fang Yan said. "I also want to talk to them about your studies and performance in school. The results you've achieved, the problems, and the areas that you hope to improve. It's really difficult," Qin Tian said. "Even if the mayor of Huaqing wanted to meet her parents, it would be extremely difficult, right? But you can talk to me about these problems." Fang Yan was not willing to talk to Qin Tian. He knew that it was useless to talk. Qin Tian looked at Fang Yan and said with a smile, "Enjoy your meal, I won't disturb you anymore." After nodding at the others, he turned around and walked out. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan and followed behind Qin Tian. "It's really beautiful," Fang Yingxiong praised sincerely. "Rin Jin is beautiful too," Fang Haohan added. Fang Yan looked at Lu Chaoga and said, "Actually, our Principal Lu is the prettiest. Principal Lu, you'll be leaving Rosefinch soon, right? If you go to Longtu, will you bring a secretary or assistant with you? You know, I'm a language teacher. Today, I'm going to recruit people of talent and family. I think I'm qualified for this job. Believe in my sincerity, believe in your eyes, I'll bring you a comfortable and satisfied smile." Lu Chaoga looked at Fang Yan and asked, "Why do I have to leave?" "Don't tell me you still want to stay in Rosefinch?" Fang Yan asked in confusion. How cool would it be to be the deputy director of Longtu Group? It would be much better than staying in Rosefinch, right? "Before I understand a lot of things, I won't leave Rosefinch," Lu Chaoga said. "Rosefinch can be my Rosefinch, but Longtu is someone else's Longtu." Chapter 171. What do you think? Qin Tian asked. What do you mean, what do you mean? Jiang Junling asked. What do you mean? I'm not a Tao addict, and I don't know how to judge people, Jiang Junling said with a smile. As long as you're human, you'll judge people, Qin Tian said. Some people bet on a lifetime of happiness, while others bet wrong and lose everything. Jiang Junling smiled and said, gentle? Violent? Qin Tian looked at Jiang Junling in surprise and said, Did you know him before? No, I didn't. We just met once, and you have such an evaluation. Gentle refers to his appearance. He's a language teacher, a young and good-looking language teacher. It's not an exaggeration to say that he's casual and elegant. Such a teacher stands on the podium and talks about the country. He must be very popular among girls, right? However, he has a strong desire to break the rules. There are two kinds of people in this world. One is the people who live within the rules. They find their most comfortable position under all kinds of rules. Once they touch the red line, they will immediately shrink back and readjust their posture and direction. The other kind of people will trample and avoid it. When they feel troubled by the red line or blocked by the rules, they will cross the red line and break the rules to get where they want to go and get what they want. He's the same kind of person as me. Jiang Junling rarely praises others. Qin Yiqian squinted and smiled. She knew that Fang Yan was indeed the kind of man who would cross the line. His teaching method was different from others, and his style of doing things was unique. He never stuck to the old rules, and he would surprise people within a controllable range. When he saw me, there was a slight contraction of his pupils. This was because he regarded me as an imaginary enemy. Let me ask you, we met for the first time. Why would he be hostile to me? Because he treats you like a treasure. He doesn't like to see other men encroach on you. That's what he thought. He immediately used his identity as a teacher to warn you not to fall in love at such a young age. In the name of righteousness, he told me to wait for you to grow up and mature. If you didn't listen to his advice, it would be disobeying your teacher's orders. If I refused, it would be considered as not loving you enough. A single leaf in autumn. If he encountered something else, what kind of counterattack would he make? It seems that you have just fought a battle, Qin Yiqian said. Yes, a man's war. Jiang Junling nodded. In that case. Qin Yiqian smiled even more happily, and her pretty face was incomparably gorgeous. If I work a little harder, I can still take him down, right? I don't think you ever doubted that. Qin Yin walked even more arrogantly and said, Jiang Junling, sometimes you are not so annoying. Thank you. Jiang Junling said, this is the most sincere compliment you can give me. The two of them walked to the entrance of a large shopping mall. Qin Yiqian stopped and said, I hope you have a good time in watching. After saying that, he got into a GMC limousine that had been prepared a long time ago. The limousine blended into the rolling traffic and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Jiang Junling stood there for a minute, and a black Mercedes-Benz drove in front of him. The back door opened, and a handsome young man walked out. He said respectfully, Welcome to Huaqing, young master. Huaqing is just looking at flowers. You don't have to be so nervous. Longtime Group. In the media interview room. Mr. Jiang, we would like to know why you suddenly decided to give half of the shares of Longtime Group to your adopted daughter, Lu Chaoga. A middle-aged male reporter wearing glasses stood up and asked. Qiang Longtan sat there in a cultured and elegant manner, with a smile that made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. No matter how one looked at it, this was a man who could move people's hearts. He lowered the microphone a little and said with a smile, Mr. Reporter, there are two problems with your question. First, I did not suddenly make this decision. Instead, I made this final decision after a long period of careful consideration and the collective discussion of the Longtime Group's higher-ups. Second, I do not want to give half of the shares of Longtime Group to Miss Lu Chaoga, but to return it. Just as I said to her, she deserves it. Mr. Jiang, according to reliable sources, it is said that Miss Lu Chaoga was involved in a premeditated car accident when she was eating at Sky No. 1 a few days ago. Also, the former chief engineer of Longtu, Mr. Lu Jing, also submitted his resignation letter to you after a big argument with you. What's even more shocking is that he died in an accident on the day he resigned. A female reporter in a black business suit stood up. Because this female reporter's explanation was too long and tedious, and she had asked such a sensitive and sharp question, everyone present focused their attention on her and Qiang Longtan. The head of the public relations department of Longtu Group, Fu Mingli, looked at Qiang Longtan with a questioning gaze. As long as he gave the slightest hint, he would immediately cut off the female reporter's question. Unfortunately, Qiang Longtan maintained a calm and composed smile, as if he had already expected such a question to appear. So, we really want to know if Mr. Zhang's decision to return the shares to Miss Lu Chaoga at this time was due to pressure from the media and the outside world? Or is it like how the outside world interpreted it? Mr. Jiang has a guilty conscience? The audience was silent, and everyone looked at Jiang Longtan with burning eyes, waiting for his response to this question. Qiang Longtan's fingers were interlocked, and his eyes looked straight into the eyes of the many reporters below the stage. He said, "It's definitely unrealistic to say that I don't care about the media reports and the outside world speculations. Qiang Longtan is a person who cherishes his reputation, and he's also a person who cares about his reputation, who would want to become a murderous demon in the eyes of others. In any case, I don't want to." Of course, this isn't the main reason. Qiang Longtan said with a smile, "Miss Lu Chaoga is sitting next to me at this time. She can prove to everyone that when she just returned from studying in the United States, I suggested that she enter Longtu Group to work. When she was familiar with the company's affairs, I would give her a more important position and let her take on more responsibilities. I could even completely take over Longtu Group. It's entirely possible." However, Miss Lu Chaoga refused. "Some of my ideas can only be put aside for now." Everyone present knew that a clenched fist was more painful than an open palm. I hoped that the Longtu Corporation would be a whole. I didn't want it to be split into two when the energy industry was flourishing and developing at such a rapid pace. This is irresponsible to my personal career, irresponsible to Longtu Group, and irresponsible to Miss Lu Chaoga and my friend's parents. Previously, I didn't return the shares to her because I felt that it wasn't the most suitable time. Now, I'm returning the shares to her because I feel that the time is just right. Today, I invited all the media friends here to explain this fact to you." "Mr. Jiang, you mean that you have nothing to do with Miss Lu Chaoga's car accident and Mr. Lu Jing's death?" The female reporter stood up and asked. Qiang Longtan's voice was incomparably firm as he said, "I have nothing to do with those things at all. I am willing to accept the supervision of society and the investigation of the law." "Miss Lu Chaoga, you suddenly have 49% of the shares of Longtu Group. You will become one of the richest women in this country. How do you feel now?" The reporter pointed the spear at Lu Chaoga, who had been sitting beside Qiang Longtan and had been silent and unusually low-key. Lu Chaoga raised her head and glanced at the excited female reporter. Her voice was calm as she said, "This is the wealth that my parents left for me. I am very grateful to have such a gift. It can change my life and my whole life. However, my greatest regret is that they didn't give it to me personally, because I really miss them." "Miss Lu Chaoga, you are now the vice principal of a famous school. After you have obtained 49% of the shares of Longtu Group, you will become the largest shareholder of Longtu Group after Mr. Qiang Longtan. Will you give up your position as vice principal and join Longtu Group because of this?" "I won't," Lu Chaoga said decisively. "At least not now." Lu Chaoga turned sideways to look at Qiang Longtan and said, "Uncle Jiang is a very capable person. Because of his many years of hard work and selfless contributions, Longtu Group can achieve what it has today. I have always been by his side, and I know the hard work he has done. I also believe that as long as he is here, Longtu Group will achieve even more dazzling achievements. So, I am willing to let Uncle Jiang take care of Longtu Group. As for me, I will still be doing my favorite education career. Everyone should do what they are good at. Uncle Jiang and I have a clear division of labor." Qiang Longtan also looked at Lu Chaoga lovingly and said in a slightly blaming tone, "Chaoga, you should have discussed this with me before making such a decision. I hope that you can enter Longtu. I need your help." "Uncle Jiang, I have made up my mind," Lu Chaoga said. "Let's talk about this when we get home," Qiang Longtan said with a smile. One was a kind and considerate father, and the other was a confident and independent daughter. They behaved so intimately and lovingly that it instantly shattered all the speculations and bad rumors that the outside world had about them. Longtu Group was still an inseparable entity. In front of the computer, a woman sneered as she watched the live broadcast of Longtu Group's press conference. She said in a hoarse voice, "Qiang Longtan, this is only the first round of victory." Chapter 172. Some people advocated light, while others preferred darkness. This was an abandoned agricultural machinery factory. Because no one had used it for a long time, there was a damp and moldy smell. There were no lights in the factory, only an old TV flickering with a blurry shadow. This was a football match between Chinese teams. There was no passionate running, no violent collisions, and no dazzling dribbling of the ball past people. They were always listless, as if they did not sleep well last night. Coupled with the horizontal bars and black shadows that appeared from time to time on the TV screen due to the quality issues, most people would have long given up on the TV. However, his eyes were watching with relish and his expression was unusually serious. He held a can of beer in his hand and took a sip from it from time to time. Then he picked up 2 peanuts and threw them into his mouth to chew. It was really a great enjoyment. At this moment he suddenly stopped chewing. "Who is it?" the man shouted with a mouthful of peanuts in his mouth. Because there was too much foreign matter in his mouth, his voice was a little unclear. It was quiet inside and outside the factory, only the sound of the wind blowing through the grass outside could be heard. The man threw the can of beer in his hand towards the nearest window but did not hear the sound of the can falling. He picked up the chair on the ground and smashed it towards the window. He quickly hid in a dark corner of the room. Clang! The chair hit the window and the dusty glass shattered. How could such a good beer be lost? A clear voice came from outside. Creak! The heavy iron door of the factory was pushed open from the outside and a black shadow slowly walked in. At the same time, the wind and moon rushed in. The factory finally became clearer, but the corners of the walls were still dark. "Old monster, come out," Fang Yen said with a smile. He put the can of beer in his hand on the table and said, "You are surrounded. Come out and let's have a good talk." The old monster did not make a sound, still holding his breath and hiding behind the pile of scrap metal. "Do you not believe that you are surrounded, or do you not want to have a good talk with me?" Fang Yen said aloud. "Hero, give him a warning. The hero has arrived." A round head appeared by the window on the left. "The hero is here." A simple and honest man's voice rang out from the window on the right. There were a total of 4 windows in the factory. 2 of them were blocked by a pile of scrap metal, and the other 2 were blocked by heroes. Coupled with Fang Yen, who was attacking from the front, the old monster was indeed surrounded. "Can we talk now?" Fang Yen stood still in the distance, but his eyes were fixed on the place where the old monster was hiding, as if he wanted to drag him out from the deep shadows. "What do you want to talk about?" The old monster's hoarse voice came from the darkness. He knew that his current situation was not good. He would not give up without a fight, but he was willing to solve the problem through peaceful communication with Fang Yen. "Talk about why you want to kill me," Fang Yen said with a smile. "I'm a man who is easily interested in new things, especially when it concerns my life. I want to get to the bottom of it. I know very well that we have never met before. Why did you attack me on the Shisha mountain?" The old monster fell silent once again. "You lured me out through my student and then attacked me at the Tiger Leaping Gorge. You guys have been scheming in advance. Why don't you tell me who ordered you to do this?" "I didn't tell you last time, and I won't tell you this time either," the old monster said. "The honor of an assassin?" Fang Yen laughed. "What kind of bullsh*t honor is an assassin? You're just taking someone's money to get rid of a disaster. Don't think that all assassins in the world are good men just because of the movie This Assassin Is Not Too Cold. You guys have never been merciful when you kill your wives and children." "It's an assassin's rule," the old monster said. "It's more important than honor. Honor would earn one respect, but the rule was something that one had no choice but to follow. If one violated the rule and sold the employer's personal information, one would be hunted down by the Assassin's Guild and other assassins. The former might live, but the latter would die a horrible death. Most importantly, they did not know the employer's information. It seems like we can't come to an agreement? It's either life or death. This is the fate of an assassin." The old monster said firmly, "I've already mentally prepared myself before I entered this profession. The worst that can happen is death." "So, you don't care about her life?" Fang Yen asked with a smile. As they were talking, Fang Ying pushed a woman who was tied up all over. The woman was the old monster's lover, Little Goblin. "You deserve to die," the old monster roared fiercely. Clang! Following the roar, there was the sound of something hitting a piece of scrap metal. Then, the old monster, who was wearing a casual black outfit, walked out from the shadows. One of his hands had been cut off, leaving only a fleshy arm hanging there. They were the famous old monster and little goblin team in the world of assassins. Some people called them old monsters. On Sunset Mountain, they used Jing Guodong, Li Yang, and Chen Tao as bait to kill Fang Yen at Tiger Leaping Gorge. Fang Yen was strong enough to capture the old monster. When he forced the old monster to reveal who the mastermind was, the little goblin suddenly cut off one of the old monster's hands. The two of them jumped off the cliff and escaped. Later, when Fang Yen and Lu Chaoga were eating at Sky No. 1, a car suddenly dashed toward them from behind. Fang Yen desperately pushed Lu Chaoga away and luckily saved his life. However, the security guard, Lu Jinju, who was holding an umbrella for them, was hit and killed. Fang Yen was extremely sad and tried his best to find the truth. When he went to the police station to check the video, he noticed that the driver only used one hand. There must be a reason why he used one hand to control the steering wheel at such a critical moment. Fang Yen knew 2 or 3 disabled people, but the old monster was the only one who had a broken hand. The old monster had already attacked him on Sunset Mountain. At this time, Fang Yen naturally had a reason to think of him as the enemy. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen hadn't found a job yet. Since they had nothing to do, Fang Yen sent them to look for the whereabouts of the old monster and the little goblin. The old monster's broken hand needed a lot of medicine to treat it. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen set their sights on the medical centers and clinics in the city. They didn't expect that after a few days, they really found some clues. The two of them closely monitored the little goblin for 2 days. Finally, the little goblin came to buy medicine again. They informed Fang Yen in time. The 3 of them followed the little goblin and finally subdued the slippery little goblin in a hidden place. I deserve to die? Fang Yen sneered. You deserve to die. Didn't you just say that? Before you entered this industry, you were already mentally prepared. What? Are you mentally unbalanced now? It seems that you haven't prepared well enough. What kind of hero is kidnapping a woman? Come at me if you can. I'm not a hero, Fang Yen said with a smile. He pointed at the heroes who were escorting the little goblin and said, They are. What do you want? I want an answer, Fang Yen said. Tell me the answer. I'll let her go. This is the deal between you and me. Silence. Fang Yingying pulled the little goblin's hand hard. One of the little goblin's arms that was tied behind his back was broken. The little goblin's mouth was blocked by a rag, so he couldn't scream. However, the groan from the pain was like a thin needle that pierced deep into the old monster's heart. Let her go. Give me the answer I want, Fang Yen said again. You should know that I like to play quick questions and quick answers. Last time, you were the one who paid the price. This time, fortunately, it's still you. I believe that abandoning your teacher for a woman must be true love, right? I really don't know who wants to kill you, the old monster screamed. We always contact our agent when we receive jobs. The agent gives us the target's information, then we search for the target's whereabouts and look for an opportunity to make a move. I don't know who the employer is. I'm not satisfied with this answer, Fang Yen said. Crack, Fang Yingying moved again, and another arm of the little goblin was broken. The little goblin groaned in pain again. His forehead was covered in cold sweat, and his expression became twisted. The old monster's eyes were angry and cruel. He stared at Fang Yen fiercely, like a wounded hyena staring at its prey. Let her go, and I'll agree to any of your conditions. I said, tell me the answer I want. Fang Yen said, I'll let her go immediately after I get the answer. Who wants to go against a woman? I don't know the answer, the old monster said. I can agree to anything except the answer. Doesn't that violate your assassin's code? Fang Yen said with a smile. I don't care, the old monster said with red eyes. Fang Yen squinted his eyes and smiled. Do you know that your value in my heart is only whether you can give me the answer I want? If you can't give me the answer, you've lost your only value in my heart. I won't cooperate with AB** starred who tried to kill me twice in a row. Fang Yen stretched his right foot forward, bent his body slightly, and made a gesture of holding the moon in the wind with his arms. He said, for Lu Jinju, for Lu Chaoga, and for Xiao Bao. You don't know who Xiao Bao is, do you? He's Lu Jinju's son. Lu Jinju was an innocent security guard who was killed by your car. I promised Lu Jinju that I would avenge him. Please cooperate with me and don't make me break my promise. Chapter 173. Under the bright moon and cool breeze, in the old factory in the wilderness. A great battle was about to break out, and the atmosphere was shockingly cold. Fang Yan got into a fighting stance, waiting for the old monster to take the initiative to attack. One to save his partner, and the other to fulfill his own lies. They all knew that this was a battle of life and death. Of course, Fang Yan thought that if he really couldn't beat the old monster, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen could still help. It was said that 2 fists couldn't beat 4 hands. They had 6 hands on their side. As for what the old monster was thinking, who cared? He could either choose to fight or run away. The key was that he might not be able to run away. The windsweeping moon was an open move in the Tai Chi palm. First, it opened wide to encircle people, then closed the door and locked them. Tai Chi was invisible. Tai Chi was everywhere. Tai Chi was everywhere. Unless the opponent chose to avoid it, as long as he approached or attacked, he would be within the range of the windsweeping moon. The old monster's eyes turned cold, but he couldn't retreat. What awaited him was a battle to the death. One of his hands had been cut off by the little goblin. This kind of injury was a disaster for a martial artist. Apart from Yanghua in the Return of the Condor Heroes, have you ever heard of a one-armed man who was a top master? Besides, Yanggua's superb kung fu was inseparable from his experience of living alone with his eagle for many years. After all, no matter how smart the eagle was, it was only a bird. Birds should not kill birds of the same kind. The old monster moved. He didn't directly charge at Fang Yan. He also came from the Tai Chi sect. Even if he didn't understand the essence of Tai Chi, he still had a certain understanding of the Tai Chi moves and styles of various sections. In a fight between masters, control was important. If he rushed straight at Fang Yan, he would enter Fang Yan's sphere of influence. If Fang Yan was completely in control of the situation, the only thing that awaited him in the end would be death. The old monster's body moved as fast as lightning. With a leap and a light tap of his toes, he flew to the top of the 1-meter-high pile of scrap metal. His feet moved quickly, and the thick, heavy, and embroidered weapons flew towards Fang Yan's direction. Fang Yan scooped with one hand, and the first iron artifact fell into Fang Yan's arms. His hands were not stained by the dust. Not even a corner of his clothes could touch the iron. He used his own chi to guide the trajectory of the iron weapon. After making 2 full circles, he smashed it at the pile of iron that the old monster was standing on at a faster speed and with greater force. Clang! The old monster leaped high into the air, and the iron shaft slammed into the wall of the factory behind him. Boom! A big hole appeared in the wall, and the ring-shaped iron shaft actually went through the wall. The entire factory began to shake, and the dust on the roof whooshed down, as if a sandstorm had arisen. This was just the beginning. Fang Yan waved his hands even faster, and the iron blocks and handles that the old monster had kicked were all swept up by him, and then he smashed them back in the direction of the old monster. Give them a taste of their own medicine. Moreover, the force was stronger, and the momentum was more majestic. This was the essence of Tai Chi, using one's own strength and one's own strength to hit one's enemy. If one could resist one's own strength, how could one resist the combined force of 2 people? The old monster dodged left and right on top of the pile of scrap metal like a ballet. After the storm of attacks from Fang Yan, he was in a very difficult and dangerous situation. The little goblin, whose hands and feet were tied and whose mouth was gagged, widened his eyes, and his face was full of panic and anxiety. Fang Yan was too powerful. The heavily injured old monster was no match for him at all. What was worse was that they were good at working together. However, how could he cooperate with him in his current situation? His life was in danger. Junior Marshal Uncle's move of true man selecting soldiers is really good. Fang Ying looked at Fang Yan with admiration and said with a smile. Junior Marshal Uncle is angry, Fang Haohen said. Fang Ying looked at the little goblin and said, although I feel that you are very pitiful, if you kill junior martial uncle, Miss Yi will also be very pitiful. Fang Haohen looked at Fang Yingying with a puzzled face and asked, why is Miss Yi pitiful? Miss Yi is not junior martial uncle's wife, and Miss Yi did not give birth to a son for junior martial uncle. Idiot! Fang Yingying slapped Fang Haohen's head. Seeing that Fang Yan was busy fighting with others, he thought that he could not hear what he said, so he said in a low voice, if you were Miss Yi, you could find someone to beat up every day when you are in a bad mood, and that person could not resist. Do you think that your mood can be cute every day? Fang Haohen's eyes widened, and he thought for a while, and finally understood. He grinned, nodded honestly, and said, I can be cute every day. Hearing the conversation between these two, the little goblin almost laughed out loud. One of you has a fat head and a bun face, and the other has a long and flat wax melon head. Don't imitate other people's hobby of dressing up like this. Do you know that you are not cute at all? But when she thought about how her man was in a life and death struggle, she had to grieve and be heartbroken to match her current mood and situation. Could you imagine how much of a test of skill it was for her to move her facial muscles with all her might? Because Fang Yan's counterattack was too fierce, the old monster could no longer stand on the pile of scrap metal. His body jumped up, and his feet turned into blades, and he aimed at Fang Yan's neck. Here it comes. Fang Yan sneered. He moved his body to one side, and avoided the old monster's direct attack. Then he used both hands to buckle the old monster's long legs, and one hand grabbed his ankle. With a strong pull, the old monster's flying body was pulled back by him. He punched the old monster's knee, and with a crisp crack, one of the old monster's legs was broken. Ah! The old monster screamed. Fang Yan did not stop there, and he still held the old monster's ankle. His right foot kicked up at a 180-degree angle, directly hitting the upper body of the old monster, whose body was still hanging in the air, and kicking it high into the air. When the old monster's body was in a free fall, Fang Yan kicked the second time. Bang! After a muffled groan, the old monster's body flew high again. Third kick, fourth kick, fifth kick. The old monster's body was kicked 7 or 8 times, and his bones felt like they were about to fall apart. However, he still clenched his teeth and held on, and kept his mouth closed. Suddenly his body was hanging upside down, and he grabbed Fang Yan's lower body. In his hand, he was holding a triangular bayonet that was shining with a cold light. The tip of the bayonet went straight for Fang Yan's calf. If he succeeded with this attack, Fang Yan's entire left leg would be broken. You're asking for it. Fang Yan was furious. His body spun 360 degrees, round and round, and he swung the old monster's body again. Then he kicked the old monster's body toward the pile of scrap metal. Clank, clank, bang. The old monster's body knocked down several metal shelves, and he was finally stopped by a large piece of machinery. Blurg! The old monster was lying there, retching. When he opened his mouth, a pool of sticky blood gushed out. When Fang Yan continuously kicked his chest, his internal organs were already seriously injured. However, he resisted the urge to spit out the clotted blood. This was because he knew that once he vomited blood in the process of battle, the taut energy in his body would leak out. Without the ability to fight back, there would be no hope of escape. If that happened, he would really be dead if he fell into Fang Yan's hands. Of course, he was only left with a small part of his life. The little goblin whimpered, and his body struggled with all his might. However, no matter how hard he tried, he could not untie the Tai Chi knot that Fang Yingying tied on him. The Tai Chi knot, one knot leads to 100 knots, and the more knots are untied, the more knots there are. If one did not know how to untie knots, he would probably be strangled to death by this knot. Woo woo woo. The little goblin whimpered at Fang Yingying. She wants to talk to you, Fang Haohen said. Fang Yingying pulled off the rag on the little goblin's mouth. Before he could ask what she wanted to say, the little goblin had already shouted, "Let him go! Fang Yan, please let him go. He is also a Tai Chi disciple, the same as you. Fang Yan, let him go, I will promise you anything." Fang Yan looked at the little goblin and said, "I just talked to him, I need an answer." But he didn't give it to me. It's not that we don't want to give it to you, it's that we really don't know who ordered us to kill you. Fang Yan, let him go, I will die for him. Fang Yan shook his head and said, it can't be replaced. No one can replace the other. Lu Jinju is dead, even if 10 old monster and little goblin died, they can't replace his mother who lost her son, his wife who lost her husband, and his son. His son just turned 1 month old, he didn't even have the chance to hear his son call him daddy. How can he replace this? The old monster vomited another mouthful of blood and screamed, don't beg him. Don't beg him. From the day we betrayed the sect, every day we live is equal to 1 more day of profit for us. That's enough. It's really enough. I have wronged you. It's all my fault. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have betrayed the sect. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have been hunted down. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have become an assassin. It's all my fault. I don't care if I die, but I want you to live. The old monster shook his head and said, if you die, how can I live? He supported himself with one hand on the metal frame and struggled to stand up. Step by step, he walked toward where Fang Yan was standing. He staggered and one of his legs was dragging on the ground. He was still covering his mouth and coughing violently. Every time he coughed, his injured internal organs would be pulled, and every time his internal organs were pulled, he would spit out a mouthful of black blood. Fang Yan's eyes were cold, his whole body vigilant as he stared at the old monster who was getting closer. The old monster stood in front of Fang Yan, the two of them maintaining a distance of less than 1 meter. I lost, the old monster said. I'm no match for you. I tried to kill you twice but failed twice. Now my life is yours. Chapter 174. The old monster stood loosely in front of Fang Yan, as if he was waiting to be slaughtered. He had given up fighting and resisting. As long as Fang Yan gave him a light push, he would fall to the ground. This kind of person was really too hateful. Fang Yan was a little anxious. He said, you punched me. You hit my face. The old monster stood there motionless, as if he hadn't heard Fang Yan's words at all. He covered his mouth with his hand. Every time he opened his palm was covered in blood. You can kick me, or just touch me, Fang Yan said. Dive. It's like diving on the football field. Fall on my body. The old monster laughed loudly. He pointed at Fang Yan and laughed so hard that his tears and snot were coming out. Stupid. He pointed at Wen Yan and roared, really stupid. Fang Yan nodded and said, you can scold me, but scold me a bit harder. You said I was ugly. What? Because I don't have the ability to fight? Because you think I'm useless, so you can't do anything? Because of chivalry? Because of the martial art moral teachings? Idiot. There's no shortage of idiots like you in the family or sect. People like you, if you walk out, will be swallowed by others until not even your bones are left. The winner is king and the loser is a bandit. You can't even bear to kill an assassin. What if you meet other opponents in the future? What if your family and friends want to kill you? This was a dog-eat-dog world, a place where anything could happen. Fang Yan, you're too naive. That's not what I mean. Fang Yan retorted angrily. These assassins are really hateful. Not only did he want to kill you several times, but he also insulted you after you knocked him down. The old monster patted his chest and shouted with a bloody face, come, Fang Yan, come, kill me and you'll fulfill your promise. Kill me and you'll avenge that child. Come on, hit here. 1 punch is enough. Fang Yan looked at the old monster with a serious expression and asked, do you want to die? I don't want to. Who would want to die if they could live? The old monster laughed and spat out another mouthful of blood. But I know I have no choice but to die. What if I let you live? Fang Yan asked. The old monster was stunned and asked, Why didn't you kill me? I mean if... Fang Yan suddenly raised his leg and slapped the old monster's forehead. The old monster's body fell to the ground with a thud. He lay there motionless, and for a long time he did not move. If you didn't kill Lu Jinju... Fang Yan sighed softly. Wen Chang. The little goblin screamed. The old monster's real name was Wen Chang. Perhaps This name was a very distant memory for them. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen held the little goblin on both sides to prevent her from rushing to fight with Fang Yen. Although she was tied up like a rice dumpling, even if she could run to Fang Yen, she would only be killed. "Wen Chang, wait for me!" The little goblin screamed hysterically. Fang Yingying reacted quickly and stretched out his hand to pat her neck. Unfortunately, Fang Yingxiong was still a step too late. Before his hand chopped the little goblin's neck and made her faint, the little goblin had already crushed her poisonous fangs. She spat out a mouthful of blood, and then black blood flowed out of her nose and eyes. She looked like an evil ghost, and her appearance was extremely hideous and terrifying. The poison used by the killer was extremely strong, and there was no cure for her. "Untie it," Fang Yen said. Fang Yingying stretched out his hand and pulled, and the Tai Chi knot on the little goblin's body suddenly shrunk into a small rope. The little goblin smiled gratefully at Fang Yen, and then ran to the old monster's corpse. She had only run 2 steps when the poison took effect, and her body fell to the ground weakly. She didn't stop there, and still crawled to the place where the old monster was lying with difficulty. Both of her arms were broken by Fang Yingying, so she could only rely on her physical strength. Her body arched up and down, and arched up again. She kicked her legs forward with all her might, like a sick pig that didn't know fatigue. When her body fell again, she lifted her head once more. She struggled, and used all her strength to arch up. However, she had no strength left in her body. Her vision turned black, and her head fell down softly. She couldn't raise her head anymore. Fang Yen, Fang Yingying, and Fang Haohen watched from afar, watching the woman approach the man crazily, getting closer to her life partner. Because a celebrity got divorced, because a celebrity cheated, countless people said that they didn't believe in love anymore. However, Fang Yen saw the true meaning of life and death companionship from these 2 killers. He was deeply shocked. Fang Yingying opened his mouth, but he couldn't say anything. Fang Haohen scratched his head, and felt that this scene was so sad. Fang Yen walked over, picked up the little goblin's body, and put it in the old monster's arms. Then, he used the old monster's arms to wrap around the little goblin. Just like that, they finally hugged each other tightly. They died together in such a gentle way. Men are afraid of entering the wrong profession, and women are afraid of marrying the wrong man. "I hope you can have good luck in your next life," Fang Yen said. This scene made him feel inexplicably sad. Fang Yen killed the killer who wanted to kill him and Lu Jinju, but he didn't feel the slightest joy in his heart. They were just another form of pitiful people. The mistake was that they chose the wrong profession. "Give them a grand funeral," Fang Yen said. Screech. A champagne-colored BMW stopped in front of the iron gate of the villa. This was an old-fashioned villa. It didn't have an electronic gate, and it still used a black iron gate with a sharp point. The courtyard wall was also tall, and the top of the wall was covered with unknown green plants. Dense green moss grew in the damp corners of the outer wall. Everyone lived in peace. The courtyard wall was much higher than a person, so it was impossible to see the situation inside the villa from the outside. Lu Chaoga sat in the driver's seat and looked at the embroidery on the iron gate. She didn't intend to get out of the car immediately. The wound on her face was carefully cared for by Fang Yen. She applied the golden chrysalis skin-nourishing powder every day, and there were almost no scars left. Her injured ankle and sprained waist had also recovered. She wore an exquisite suit, and her slender and fair neck was tied with a new Hermes silk scarf. She had regained the demeanor of an ice queen. She inadvertently looked up and saw a pair of gloomy eyes behind the curtain of the room on the 2nd floor. Clang. Lu Chaoga finally opened the door and walked out. She stood in front of the iron gate and gently knocked on the lock of the gate. Soon, an old woman with small feet ran over and opened the iron gate. The old woman just smiled foolishly at Lu Chaoga and didn't speak. She was mute. Lu Chaoga walked into the living room and then walked up to the 2nd floor. At the door of a brown wooden door, she gently knocked on the room door and then pushed the door open without waiting for the person inside to respond. She knew that she wouldn't respond. Bang! The room door closed again. The huge study filled with the fragrance of paper and the moldy furniture that had not been opened for a long time became dark again. The woman stood by the window, but the curtains were drawn tightly. She only needed to reach out and pull, and she would be able to welcome the world of sunshine outside. However, she clearly didn't plan to do so. "You don't want to come in?" the woman asked in a sharp voice. It was like a knife ruthlessly stabbing into the heart. "I'm sitting in the car thinking about something," Lu Chaoga said. "I know what you're thinking," the woman said. "Lu Chaoga, do you think you've already won? Do you think you've already won? Do you think this matter can be settled just like that? Isn't that right? Isn't that what you think?" "I don't," Lu Chaoga said. "It's all an act. They're acting to you. Don't you understand? You've watched them act for more than 10 years. Can't you tell the real from the fake? Don't you feel disgusted watching this?" The woman said mockingly, "Do you really think you've gotten 49% of the shares? Do you think you've already become the second largest shareholder of Longtime Group? Do you think you've already amassed billions of assets and that you won't be able to finish spending it even if you lie down for the rest of your life? I've never thought about this." Before they gave you the shares, they had already signed a share expansion plan. They sold a large part of the company's shares to Jiang Zhuliu's shell company, and what they got back was just some negligible checks. When you go to take over the company, the cruel reality will slap a little girl like you who doesn't care about worldly affairs to the ground. What's more hateful is that although they can't change the technology patents that belong to your father, they sold the core technology of these patents to another energy company that they founded. The core assets of Longtime Group are already under their control. If they want to turn against them, they can just leave at any time. Do you think they'll pin all their hopes on your father's patents? Do you think Qiang Longtan is really as modest as he portrays himself to be? A dog that bites doesn't bark. Qiang Longtan is a wolf dog that can throw you to the ground, tear off your flesh piece by piece and swallow it into his stomach. Not only will he eat your flesh, but he will also drink your blood, pull out your tendons, and boil your bones into soup. He's a calculative person. Every inch of your body will be fully used by him. He's a demon. There's nothing in this world that he can't do. "I know," Lu Chaoga said. "Auntie, I know all that you've said." Chapter 175. "Do you know?" The woman's voice suddenly rose. It was sharp and hoarse, like the sound of a sharp object cutting through gauze. "You know everything. Why are you hesitating? He wants to eat your flesh, so you have to eat his flesh. He wants to drink your blood, so you have to drink his blood. Before he turns your bones into soup, you have to pull out his bones one by one and put them into the pot to make soup. Defeat him, kill him. Lu Chaoga, this is what you have to do. This is your responsibility. This is your destiny. Think about your parents, think about the life you have been living all these years, think about your patience and sacrifice." The woman suddenly turned around, pointing at her face and roared, "Think about my face. Lu Chaoga, shouldn't you do something for us?" What kind of face was that? It was not an exaggeration to say that it was full of holes. There were some parts where there was no flesh at all, only a piece of black bone that made people want to vomit. She had no hair, and a part of her scalp was burnt. It was wrinkled like craft paper. It looked like it had been scalded by boiling water or roasted by fire. She had no eyebrows, loose eyelids, and wrinkles. Her eyes were ruthless, cold, angry, and hateful. There was nothing positive in them. You could not see her age, but you would suspect that she must be a monster that crawled out from hell. Lu Xiaoga did not dodge, nor did she avert her gaze. She looked at the woman standing in front of her. Her eyes were full of sympathy and love, and an indescribable attachment. This was her aunt, the only family she had left in this world. Wang Li was originally a beautiful woman like her mother. Because of the tragic death of Lu Chaoga's parents, she did not go to the United States, nor did she go to any other place. She did not die. She should have died. On the way back, she did not know what happened, but she fainted. When she opened her eyes, she was trapped in a sea of fire. Her hair was burned off, her scalp was burned, and her face was disfigured. She should have turned into a piece of charcoal, Not even a piece of charcoal, but a pile of dust that no one knew what kind of creature she was. However, there was always a way out. She didn't have time to repair it, so the unlocked rear door saved her life. After she got out of the car with flames all over her body, the car she was in exploded. She believed that it was all Qiang Longtan's doing, so she began her arduous journey of revenge. She escaped alone and did not contact Lu Chaoge, who had been adopted by Qiang Longtan. She was accumulating her strength and waiting for an opportunity. Under her manipulation from behind the scenes, they finally won the first victory. "I haven't forgotten. How could I forget?" Lu Chaoge said with a moved expression. "When you suddenly picked me up from school and told me that my parents would never come back, when you hugged me and cried, when I lived alone in that strange family of the Jiang family, when I was almost driven crazy by that kind of life, when I went to the United States to look for you but could not find you, when I was alone for countless festivals. I have been working hard." Only then did the woman calm down a little. She looked at Lu Chaoge and said, "What are you going to do next?" "As you said just now, the Jiang family has made preparations. On the surface, I have obtained the shares of the company, but in fact, what I have obtained is very limited. The shares have been diluted, and the core patented technology has been leaked. Most importantly, the Longtu Group has been run by Qiang Longtan for many years. Everyone from the top to the bottom is his people. If I go in, I will just become his puppet. It is meaningless." In order to test the loyalty of his subordinates, that hypocrite Jiang Longtu created a culture of borrowing books. Other than the dead Lu Jing, almost all the middle and upper management of the Longtu Group have borrowed books from Qiang Longtan. These people are directly or indirectly showing their support to Qiang Longtan. The woman said coldly, "Longtu Group is under his control. Even if your father is alive, I'm afraid he will not be able to make a sound in Longtu. This is also not the reason for us to cooperate with him." Lu Chaoge finally voiced out her concern. "If the wolf is chased away by the tiger, what about the tiger? Then tell me, what should we do?" The woman snorted coldly. "Without their help, do you think I, a woman, can live to this day? Without their help, do you think we can force the father and son of the Jiang family to this state? If not for them, do you think we can win this time? Lu Chaoge, I know that the human heart is sinister. However, I know that only by staying alive will we have a chance. As long as we are alive, there will be a chance. There will always be a chance." Lu Chaoge was silent. She understood her aunt's way of doing things, but she could not accept it. Because those people were too cunning. They could lift you up right now, but they could also step on you right now. Besides, they have spent so much money and energy to help you. Don't tell me they don't have any ulterior motives? When their positions are switched, when they turn their guns to the outside world, how will she and her aunt face such danger? The father and son of the Jiang family must be eliminated, but it is not enough to rely on our strength. Aunt continued. We need external help, we need to attract more hatred to them, they must die. Aunt looked at Lu Chaoge and said, I believe you can do it. You must do it too. Lu Chaoge, don't let us down. Now is the best chance. If you are disappointed this time, it will be a lifetime of despair. Fang Yan walked to the school gate and saw Baldy arguing with two girls, his face red. Didn't I say it before? You say you are Teacher Fang Yan's students, then let Teacher Fang Yan come out. I don't see Teacher Fang Yan, so of course I can't let you in. If all the girls say they are Teacher Fang Yan's students and then enter Rosefinch Secondary to see Teacher Fang Yan, won't the school be in chaos? Teacher Fang Yan doesn't have that much time to receive you. Fang Yan was about to cry. He wanted to rush up and say, Brother Baldy, if there are beautiful girls who say they are my students and want to come in to see me, you must let them in. Wasn't a teacher's duty to protect students and provide them with all kinds of knowledge? He was not afraid of trouble and he had time. I just called Teacher Fang Yan, didn't you hear it? Let me show you the number on my phone. Don't tell me it's fake? Wang Lin said angrily, Fang Yan is not a big star, is it necessary for us to pretend to be brainless fans to see him? That's right. Jiang Qin, who was carrying a red backpack, echoed. When I met Teacher Fang Yan, I didn't even know where you were. Fang Yen is my good friend, a very, very good friend. Do you know that? After a pause, Jiang Qin looked at Yuan Lin angrily and said, Yuan Xiaolin, you must give me an explanation. Why is Fang Yan's number on my phone fake, but your number can get through? Yuan Lin laughed and said, That's your phone, how would I know it can't get through? Could it be that you remembered the wrong number? Don't think I don't know your tricks. You want to steal my man. Mr. Fang. Yuan Lin inadvertently saw Fang Yen behind her and hurriedly greeted Fang Yen. Don't pretend to be mysterious. I haven't finished speaking, you want to steal my man. As soon as Jiang Qin turned around, she saw Fang Yen standing behind her with a smile. Her cheeks quickly turned red, and she immediately said, Sister will give it to you immediately. I won't steal those stinky men with you. Yuan Lin felt that she was being used by her best friend. Fang Yen looked at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, who were still wearing their school uniforms, and asked, You two girls didn't go home after school, why did you come to my place? Jiang Qin hadn't recovered from the shyness just now. She said with a red face, My language has been declining recently, and there are a lot of questions that I can't do. I can't understand what the teacher is saying. I want to find Mr. Fang to tutor me. Yuan Lin nodded again and again. Do you really want to tutor? Fang Yen asked with a smile. Of course. Jiang Qin bit the bullet and said, We even brought the tuition fee. Yuan Lin, open your wallet and let him see. Why do you want to open my wallet? Yuan Lin asked. Because I don't have money. Jiang Qin said frankly. So, Yuan Lin had to open her branded wallet and showed the thick stack of bills to Fang Yen. It meant, Don't be afraid, I have money, enough to support you for a few days and nights. Hurry up and put away your wallet. Fang Yen said with a frown. Yuan Lin, don't carry so much cash with you when you go out next time. Why do you, a student, carry so much money? You're adding a lot of danger for no reason. Okay, I'll listen to Mr. Fang. Yuan Lin agreed readily. Let's go. I'm making curry chicken with rice. You two little girls are lucky. Fang Yen said with a smile. Baldy trotted to Fang Yen and said, Mr. Fang, are they really your students? Fang Yen said, I don't think so, Baldy said. I'm worried that they're approaching you with ulterior motives. I want to apply to the captain to protect your safety. Fang Yen shook his head helplessly and said, Baldy, if you want coffee with rice, just say it. I didn't mean that, I didn't mean that. Baldy's thin face turned purple. If you have extra, I'll get a bowl. When Fang Yen walked back to his courtyard with Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan, who were practicing martial arts in the courtyard, had their eyes lit up instantly. Fang Yingying gave Fang Haohan a look, and then the two secretly played rock paper scissors to guess the winner. Chapter 176. Fang Haohan used scissors, and Fang Yingying used rock. Rock smashed scissors, and Fang Yingying won this round of the competition and had the priority to choose the beauties. His chubby face was full of smiles, and he walked in front of Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin with his most charming appearance. Before he could open his mouth to speak, the two little girls bowed to him politely and shouted, Hello, uncle. Fang Yingying's big face was pale. However, as a man, he must always maintain a gentleman's demeanor. Maybe there was a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel? The most important thing was, didn't the little girls nowadays like older uncles? Only uncles had great competition. Therefore, Fang Yingying endured the pain on his face and smiled at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin. Hello, two beautiful little girls. Look, what a gentle and appropriate response. Uncle, you look like Garfield. Yuan Lin giggled and said, Oh, surprised face. Garfield? How did I become Garfield? Which part of me looks like Garfield? How could I look like a cat? Fang Yingying wasn't just feeling pain on his face, but this time it was his heart. Yeah. So cute. Jiang Qin also echoed. Ha ha ha. Fang Yingying laughed, and suddenly his eyes and mouth opened into an O shape, and he stuck out his fat tongue. He put his two hands beside his ears and made a peace sign, and said, I'm Garfield from Garfield. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were rocking back and forth with laughter, tears flowing down their cheeks. Yuan Lin pointed at Fang Yingying and said, "So cute. Fat uncle is so cute. Yeah, he really looks like that fat cat. I really want to pinch his face." Pinch face? Fang Yingxiong's eyes lit up. He swayed left and right as he moved step by step towards Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin. He shouted, "Master, hurry up and pinch my face, hurry up and pinch my face." Pinching faces can unlock more skills. Plop. Fang Yen kicked him from behind, causing him to fall flat on his face. "Who kicked me?" When Fang Ying climbed up from the ground with difficulty, he saw Fang Yan's black face. "Little martial uncle." The anger on Fang Yingxiong's fat face immediately turned into a smile, and he said fawningly, "Your white snake tail whip is getting better and better. I was completely defenseless when you kicked me. Good kick, wonderful kick. You idiot scum. We are the descendants of the Fang clan's Taiji. How could we do such a thing that would damage our reputation? As a top-notch martial artist, we should have a basic requirement for our own image. Standing like a pine tree, moving like the wind, standing like a bronze bell. Fang Yingying, tell me, which one did you do? Are you worthy of the name of a hero?" Fang Haohen said with a wronged face, "Junior martial uncle, I didn't do anything standing here." "Sorry, I said that too casually." Fang Yen apologized to Fang Haohen. Then he focused his attacks on Fang Yingxiong and said, "You better wake up." "Yes, junior martial uncle," Fang Yingying answered obediently. Fang Yen sighed softly and turned to Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, who were behind him, and said, "I don't want to be strict with them, but I have to be strict with them. A country has its laws and a family has its rules. Since they are from Fang's Tai Chi and call me junior martial uncle, I have to be responsible for their words and deeds. You may not know this, but we, the famous sects, are very strict with our disciples. Martial arts, martial art morality, none of them can be missing. Only martial art morality. Without martial arts, it is difficult to enter the next level. Only martial arts but not martial art morality, and disciples are easy to go out and commit crimes. We who practice martial arts are like Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Batman in the city. If we don't stand properly, won't we become the villains in the movies? Think about it, if Spider-Man scourges the people, how much loss will it bring? Is there any hope for this country?" Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked at Fang Yen with little stars on their faces and praised him in unison. "Mr. Fang, you are so handsome." Fang Yen waved his hand freely and said, "It has nothing to do with being handsome or not. This is our responsibility as martial artists. The greater a person's ability, the greater his responsibility. I dare not forget this sentence. Mr. Fang, you are a responsible man." Yuan Lin grabbed Fang Yan's arm and said. Jiang Qin pulled Yuan Lin away from Fang Yen and said, "You little love-struck fool, you haven't explained to me why I can't get through to Mr. Fang's number on my mobile phone. Tell me, what did you do to him?" Jiang Qin replaced Yuan Lin's position, grabbed Fang Yan's arm and said, "Mr. Fang, Yuan Xiaolin is too bad. She actually changed your number on my mobile phone, so I can't get through to you. You should teach her a lesson." Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen looked at each other, and both of them had deep helplessness and sadness in their hearts. Was this really a cruel world that only looked at appearances? "I still think Ren Jin is good-looking," Fang Haohen said. "I don't like these girls." Fang Yingying nodded and said, "Too thin." After thinking about it, Fang Yingying asked, "Is Junior Martial Uncle Iron Man, Spider-Man, or Batman?" "He is Superman." "Why?" "They all like to tie their underwear to their chest, but in fact, they don't wear underwear at all." Fang Yingying patted Fang Haohen's shoulder and said with deep sympathy, "No underwear means no bottom line." Baldy came over and patted Fang Yingying's shoulder, and then patted Fang Haohen's shoulder without saying anything. Everything was understood without words. Fang Yingying took Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin into the house. Zhang Chen, a big man wearing a scarf, was busy in the kitchen. When he saw Fang Yen coming in, he said with a simple and honest smile, "Master, curry chicken will be ready in a while. You sit with the guests for a while." Fang Yan seriously corrected Zhang Chen's way of addressing him and said, "Zhang Chen, how many times have I said that we are brothers? My kung fu is better than yours, and my cultivation is higher than yours, but this is not the reason why I can be your master. Master, I will definitely make you accept me as your disciple," Zhang Chen said with a determined face. "Whether it's 1 year or 2 years, 10 years or 20 years. Fang Yan shook his head and said to Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, "There are too many troublesome guys who want to learn martial arts from me. If I agree to every one of them, how can I do my favorite job of teaching and educating people? Reading books, writing and reading poems, how romantic is that? What's the point of fighting and killing? I'm a person who advocates peace. I hate war." Fang Yingying covered his butt, not daring to say anything. The messenger of peace had just been kicked by him. "Yes, yes." Jiang Qin held Fang Yan's arm and nodded repeatedly. "Mr. Fang still needs to tutor me in Chinese." "Exactly. Teacher Fang is a knowledgeable, refined, and gentle man. How could he be a hooligan who only knows how to fight and kill?" Yuan Lin, the little tail, also praised. "But Mr. Fang's fighting posture is also very handsome." "Really?" Fang Yan's face lit up, but soon he said with a serious face, "Learning martial arts is to strengthen the body and protect the country. If a martial artist wants to use martial arts to act cool in the modern city, then I can conclude that this martial artist will not have any achievements. I often tell my juniors this." "Fang Ying, Fang Haohan, do I often teach you this?" Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan didn't know how to express their feelings at this time. They had always thought that they could finish their apprenticeship, but the longer they interacted with their uncle master, the more they felt that he was an existence that they could only look up to. It was not enough to rely on hard work. Shamelessness was something that required talent. After a pause, Fang Yan said to Zhang Chen, who was standing on the side, "I'll teach you some moves after dinner." "Thank you, master." Zhang Chen was overjoyed. Fang Yan agreed to teach him moves, which was equivalent to giving him guidance in disguise. Fang Yan waved his hand and said, "Make the chicken well. Make the chicken well." "Yes, master." Zhang Chen held back his laughter and turned to concentrate on making coffee chicken. Fang Yan sat down on the sofa in the living room and said, "Didn't you two want to ask me some language questions? Before dinner is ready, take out your textbooks. If there's anything you don't understand, I'll explain it to you." Fang Yan was a language teacher, and Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were both students. He really wanted to help them improve their language scores. The midterm exam for junior high school was coming soon. If he could help them solve a few difficult problems and improve their scores in the exam, then Fang Yan felt that their trip was not in vain. "Do you really want to teach?" Jiang Qin said with a bitter face. "Yeah. Why don't we learn after dinner?" Yuan Lin also refused to learn. "We'll learn now," Fang Yan said with a serious expression. "You're students, and the primary goal of a student is to learn. Don't think about other messy things." Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked at each other, feeling a little down. Mr. Fang's words had a hidden meaning. "Take out your language textbooks," Fang Yan said. The two girls unwillingly took down their school bags and rummaged through them. 1 second, 2 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. What was even more strange was that the two girls' delicate skin blushed and there were fine beads of sweat on their foreheads. Fang Yan looked at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, who were almost putting their heads into their school bags, and asked, "What are you two doing? Is it so hard to find a textbook? Is your school bag a bottomless pit?" "Mr. Fang." Jiang Qin's little face was about to cry. "I forgot to bring my language textbook." "Me too." Yuan Lin's little face was also red. "I clearly put my language textbook in my school bag after school. How did it disappear?" Chapter 177. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin lowered their heads and blushed as they stood in front of Fang Yan, like two children who had done something wrong. Fang Yan looked at them thoughtfully and didn't speak for a long time. Fang Yan didn't speak, and the atmosphere became more and more awkward. Jiang Qin was angry and felt that they couldn't go on like this, or they would be more and more passive. She couldn't let Fang Yan think about it in peace. If he figured out their intentions for coming here, how embarrassing would that be? So, Jiang Qin raised her head and pretended to stare at Fang Yan fiercely and said, "What? We didn't mean it. We originally wanted to ask you to help us with our language lessons. Do you think we're here to see you? In your dreams? I also brought tuition fees." Yuan Lin wanted to rummage through her wallet as she spoke. Fang Yan waved his hand and said, "Don't rummage through your wallet. I believe you." Jiang Qin was stunned for a moment. She looked at Fang Yan and asked, "Do you really believe us? What can I do if I don't believe you? I don't dare to bully the butcher's daughter." Jiang Qin chuckled and raised her head proudly. She said, "It's good that you know. I'm the butcher's daughter." Yuan Lin looked at Jiang Qin and was very envious that she had a butcher's father. Fang Yan pointed to the sofa opposite them and gestured for them to sit down. He said, "If you don't understand anything, you can ask me now." Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked at each other and shook their heads. Both of them were ranked in the top few in the whole school. They were the top students that the teachers paid special attention to. If they had any questions that they didn't understand, they didn't need to say anything. The teachers of each subject would go up to them and give them guidance. "The exam is coming. You two have to study hard and don't run around," Fang Yan said. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin lowered their heads and said nothing. Neither of them liked this kind of preaching education. "This year is the most crucial and important year for all of you. You must get good results," Fang Yan continued. The two girls became even more impatient. Their ears were about to get calluses from hearing such words every day. "I'll wait for you at Rosefinch," Fang Yan said. "Really?" Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin exclaimed in surprise. "Really?" Fang Yan nodded. He knew what these two little girls were thinking. This was a stage that everyone had to go through in life. It was very ignorant and very pure, but it was also abnormally firm and fearless. He couldn't reason with them, and it was impossible for him to tell them that they shouldn't like him because it was impossible for them to be together. That would hurt their self-esteem, and if he didn't handle it well, they might give up on themselves. The consequences would be extremely serious. He was willing to wait for them to grow up, wait for them to mature. At that time, they would realize that they had fallen in love with such an outstanding man. Thus, he very noble and very shameless used the handsome man trick. "Can I take the exam for your class 9? Jiang Qin asked. "I also want to take the exam for class 9. "You can't take the exam for class 9. You can go to class 7 or 8, but you can't go to class 9. "Yes. I want to be together with you." "I don't want to be with you. Who told you to change my phone number? At worst, I won't change it in the future." Their bad moods came and went quickly, and their smiling faces would suddenly blossom into a bright smile. They would quarrel over a simple question, and they would look forward to their beautiful future. It was good to be young. Seeing the two girls chattering in front of him about the unreachable matter, Fang Yan's mood inexplicably improved. No wonder everyone liked little Loli, because every frown and smile of theirs were very cute. After the meal, Fang Yan fulfilled his promise and taught Zhang Chen some moves. Fang Yan especially went back to his room and changed into a white scholar's robe, looking handsome and elegant. He also deliberately stood in a row with Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan, making people feel that he was a dragon among men and a crane among chickens. This made Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, the two brainless fans, applaud again and again. Their eyes were full of little stars. Zhang Chen, who was wearing a black sportswear, stood in front of Fang Yan and bowed to Fang Yan. "Master, please advise me." Fang Yan nodded and said, "You attack me." Zhang Chen agreed. He clenched his fists and sank his qi into his dantian. After a roar, his whole body pounced towards Fang Yan. A fist smashed towards Fang Yan's chest. Strength. Angle. The three were all together, three became one. For Zhang Chen to be able to establish such a great reputation in Huaqing, he indeed had his outstanding points. The wind from the fist was fierce, wrapped with a strong wind. Jiang Qin screamed. Zhang Chen's momentum was too shocking, and his fist was too frightening. She was worried that he would hurt her Mr. Fang. Fang Yan stretched out his hand, then stretched out his palm and lightly flicked. After Zhang Chen spun on the spot, his attack missed. Ooh! Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin both let out a sigh of relief at the same time. Fang Yingying came over and said as if he already knew this would happen, "Don't worry, junior martial uncle will be fine." "I know." Jiang Qin nodded. "But what if Mr. Fang is hurt? It's inevitable to get hurt in a martial arts competition." "We didn't say that Uncle Zhang is not allowed to get hurt," Jiang Qin said innocently. "Did you forget?" Fang Yan asked. Zhang Chen thought for a while and said, "I forgot." Fang Yan said. So, Zhang Chen moved his qi into his dantian again, clenched his fists, and punched at a faster speed, heavier strength, and a more tricky angle. This punch was still aimed at Fang Yan's chest. Fang Yan hid one hand behind his back. When Zhang Chen rushed in front of him, he stretched out his right hand lightly. Similarly, he stretched out his hand and then gently flicked. Zhang Chen's hands and feet seemed to be entangled by an irresistible force, and his body fell backward involuntarily. Plop! Zhang Chen fell to the ground on his buttocks. "Good, good." Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin applauded. "Mr. Fang is so handsome." "Did you forget?" Fang Yan asked again. Zhang Chen closed his eyes and thought for a while, then said, "I forgot." Fang Yan said. He still hid one hand behind his back and stood tall, waiting for Zhang Chen to take the initiative to attack him. Zhang Chen rushed over again. A probe and a flick. Plop! Zhang Chen's body was hit and flew out, crushing a pot of pink orchids in the corner. Fang Yan raised his eyebrows but asked calmly, "Did you forget?" Zhang Chen climbed up from the ground with difficulty and said, "Master, I forgot." The smile on Fang Yan's face froze. It was as black as the curry chicken he ate that night. "Master." Zhang Chen looked at Fang Yan cautiously. Was there something wrong with his answer? There was no reason. This was the standard version of the answer. When he was a child, he had seen the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber. Zhang Sanfeng wanted to teach his grandson Zhang Wuji Tai Chi. When he demonstrated it for the first time, his grandfather asked Zhang Wuji, "How much do you remember what I taught you?" Zhang Wuji said, "Big Master, I only remember half of it." Zhang Sanfeng demonstrated it again and asked, "What about now?" Zhang Wuji replied, "Only less than half of it is left." After the third demonstration, Zhang Sanfeng asked, "What about now?" Zhang Wuji said, "I have forgotten everything." Everyone was worried sick. They thought, "Why is this child so stupid? Big Master taught you martial arts. How can you forget everything?" Unexpectedly, Zhang Sanfeng's old face was beaming like a flower as he praised his grandson's talent. Although he was young at that time, he still felt his blood boiling when he saw this scene. Now, teacher Fang Yan demonstrated it 3 times and asked him 3 times, "Did he forget?" According to Zhang Wuji's answer, shouldn't he have forgotten everything? Only then would he be able to show that he was a rare martial arts genius with extraordinary comprehension like Zhang Wuji. "You have forgotten everything I taught you?" Fang Yan asked. "Master, I have forgotten everything." "Since you've forgotten everything, doesn't that mean my efforts were in vain? What's the point of continuing to teach you?" Fang Yan shouted harshly. "Master?" Zhang Chen was shocked. "Aren't we learning Tai Chi?" "It's Tai Chi." Tai Chi doesn't focus on moves, only on conception, right? Fang Yan's black face became darker. He suppressed his anger and said, "Tai Chi doesn't focus on moves, only on conception, but that is when your moves have been perfected. Only when you see the mountain but not the mountain and the water but not the water can you reach the 3rd level. You don't even know whether the Tai Chi moves are horizontal or vertical. Do you know what the conception of Tai Chi is? Do you think you are Zhang Wuji?" Zhang Chen's eyes widened and his face was full of surprise. "So that's what happened? Old Master Jin has done a lot of harm. This guy thinks he is shooting a movie," Fang Yingying said with a smile. "He is even stupider than me," Fang Haohan said. After Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin understood the mistake made by Zhang Chen, they laughed again and said, "Why is it so funny? Why is it so funny?" Zhang Chen lowered his head in shame and said, "Master, I was just talking nonsense. I've memorized all your moves." It was really shameful for such a man to make such a naive mistake in front of a girl. "Tell me that. What did you remember?" Fang Yan asked seriously. Zhang Chen thought about it seriously and said, "I attacked 3 times, and Master used the same move and the same strength to fight back." Fang Yan nodded and said, "The moves are the same, and the strength is the same. Nothing changed. However, the results of my 3 counterattacks were different. The first time, Master just dissolved my fist force and made me turn in a circle. The second time, I felt that my body was tied up, and I couldn't move or escape, so I fell to the ground. The third time, I didn't have any reaction at all, and there was an irresistible force that sent me flying." Zhang Chen's eyes lit up and he asked excitedly, "Master is teaching me how to use strength." Chapter 178. The boy was worth teaching. Fang Yan had seen Zhang Chen and Fang Yingying sparring with Fang Haohen a few times, but he had never made any comments on Zhang Chen's kung fu. Only after he had a certain understanding of Zhang Chen did he offer to feed him moves. Although Fang Yan had never thought of taking Zhang Chen as his disciple, he absolutely did not want the person he sincerely wanted to help to be a brute who only had brute force. If he was really just a brute, Fang Yan would not make any changes to his moves and the way he exerted his strength. It was better to let him be brute for a lifetime than to let him be brute for a while. Maybe he could really walk a different path. Hua Xia's 7 addicts, which one of them did not become the best in their field because of their extreme foolishness? Zhang Chen could see the true meaning of Fang Yan's feeding, which was barely a pass. "Good guess." Fang Yan nodded and said. He pointed at Zhang Chen's arms and chest and said, "Your whole body is full of strength, but there is no place for you to exert your strength. It's like writing with a brush. The ink must be evenly used, the thickness must be appropriate, and the density must be well proportioned. Only in this way can you become a master of a generation. Have you seen any calligrapher whose strokes are of the same thickness?" Zhang Chen shook his head. Tai Chi is about using softness to overcome hardness, but if hardness reaches the extreme, it is also Tai Chi. Yin and Yang are 2 extremes, and you occupy both extremes of Yang, Fang Yan said. You are not a flexible person, and this has something to do with your own character. So what you need to do now is to continue to polish your strength. Still practice strength? Zhang Chen did not understand. With a flick of his foot, a green brick landed in Fang Yan's palm. He slapped it with his palm, and the blue brick immediately turned into powder. Wow! Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin exclaimed again. Mr. Fang is too handsome, too handsome. Fang Yingying smiled and said, I can do it too. Mr. Fang is so awesome. He gives people a sense of security. Fang Yingying touched his face and felt the cruelty of life even more clearly. This world belongs to handsome men. Fang Yan clapped his hands, and the ashes fell to the ground. Fang Yan flicked his toes and another brick landed in his hand. He gathered his strength and made his move. His palm lightly pressed forward. The blue brick was still the same blue brick from before, and it didn't look any different from before. Stretch out your hand, Fang Yan said. Zhang Chen stretched out his hand, and Fang Yan placed the blue brick in Zhang Chen's palm. Zhang Chen clenched his fist tightly, and the green brick turned into powder and slipped through the gaps between his fingers. Do you understand? Fang Yan asked. Understood. Zhang Chen nodded. In the world of martial arts, only speed is unbeatable. In the world of martial arts, strength is unbeatable. Whether it's speed or strength, it can make you invincible. Of course, you're now at the bottleneck of increasing your strength, so think about how I knocked you down in 3 moves. Once you understand, your bottleneck will naturally be solved. Zhang Chen was the 3-time boxing champion of Huaqing. It wasn't difficult for him to break a brick or a walnut. However, he couldn't lift something heavy as if it were light, and he couldn't lift something light as if it were heavy. In the end, boxing was still boxing. Compared to Fang Yan, who knew the inner force mantra, there was a huge gap. For example, as he grew older, Zhang Chen's speed would become slower, His strength would become lighter, and the angle would deviate. However, Fang Yan and the others would not. The older they were, the faster they were, the more powerful they were, and the more accurate the angle of their attacks would be. This was the effect of inner force. What was inner force? That was a well. When you were young, you would constantly fill it with things, and the quantitative change would lead to qualitative change. When the well was full, it would gush out, and what you needed would be endless. Thank you, Master. Zhang Chen grabbed a handful of brick dust and said with a serious expression. Fang Yan waved his hand and said, "Didn't I say it before? We're brothers, so don't call me Master." Fang Yan turned to look at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin and said, "Let's go. I'll send you to the bus station. You have to go back too." The two girls looked unhappy, but they knew they couldn't stay here for the night. They carried their backpacks and walked out of the school with Fang Yan. After Fang Yan walked away, Baldy walked to the ground and picked up a brick. He shouted, "Break." The brick was intact. There wasn't even a crack, let alone break. Baldy wasn't convinced. He held the brick with both hands and shouted, "Break." The brick was still the same brick. Of course, it wouldn't break just because he shouted. Baldy was shocked. He looked at Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan and asked, "Is this brick real?" Fang Yingying sneered and said, "Do you think it's a prop brick?" Baldy laughed and said, "I thought Mr. Fang deliberately used this to coax young girls. I did it when I was young." Seeing Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan's murderous eyes, Baldy said quickly, "I have to go on duty too. I'm busy." He waved his hand randomly and escaped from this frightening courtyard. Fang Yan walked in front, and Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin followed reluctantly. "Mr. Fang, can I still come to see you?" Jiang Qin asked. "Yes," Fang Yan said. "Then I'll come tomorrow?" "You can't come tomorrow," Fang Yan said. "You can't come before the midterm exam." "Mr. Fang," Jiang Qin said anxiously. "Then I'll bring the language textbooks tomorrow." "We'll come tomorrow and bring the language textbooks," Yuan Lin said. "We'll pay for the tuition. We won't waste your time." Fang Yan stopped and turned to look at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin behind him. He said very seriously, "I promised you that I'll wait for you in Rosefinch. So, you also promise me that you'll study hard before entering Rosefinch, okay?" Jiang Qin still wanted to argue that she came to find him to study hard and get better grades. However, when she met Fang Yan's eyes, she couldn't say anything. He understood everything that was on her mind. "I promise," Jiang Qin said. "Kiss." Yuan Lin pulled Jiang Qin's hand eagerly, indicating that she shouldn't be silly. "I promise you," Jiang Qin said. "I promise you that I'll study hard. I promise you that I'll get good grades in every exam. I promise you that I'll enter Rosefinch High. I promise you that I'll enter Class 9. I promise you that I won't fall in love with you easily." "Okay," Fang Yan said with a smile. After getting Jiang Qin's confirmation, Fang Yan felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. Jiang Qin stared at Fang Yan with a burning gaze and said, "But, before I get into Rosefinch, before I enter Class 9, before I grow up and become an adult, can you wait for me and give me a chance to fall in love with you?" The smile on Fang Yan's face instantly froze. "You promise?" Jiang Qin asked eagerly. Fang Yan waved his hand and said, "It's late, go back." Without waiting for Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin to respond, he had already turned around and left. Jiang Qin wiped her tears and looked at Yuan Lin and asked, "Am I too useless?" The bet between Fang Yan and Zhang Yu was known by everyone. Even some of the school's higher-ups knew about the bet between the two. In the anticipation of countless people, the midterm exam of Rosefinch Secondary finally arrived. The students of Class 1 and Class 9 were all full of energy, wholeheartedly thinking of defeating their opponents in this exam. Class 1 wanted to prove to the teachers and students of the school that Class 1 was Class 1 and that the class of kings could not be ignored. The students of Class 9 also wanted to prove that their learning ability was not worse than others, that their IQ was not lower than others, and that Class 9 could also be number 1. The midterm exam was the school's big exam. The grades of all the students in the school had to be ranked, and even the report cards had to be mailed to the parents of each student. This was the test of half a semester, And also an important conclusion. For this exam, all the teachers and students in the school were mobilized. The students were divided into different classes, and the invigilator also made careful arrangements. For example, the first-year math teacher would invigilate the third-year language exam, and the third-year English teacher would invigilate the first-year math exam. It was absolutely impossible for the teacher of the class to invigilate the students of the class. Fang Yen stood on the podium of the classroom, looking at the students below the stage for the final general mobilization and said, "I have already written a letter of apology." Wow! The whole audience was in an uproar. "Mr. Fang, do you not trust us that much?" "Mr. Fang, we can definitely beat Class 1. "Teacher, don't be like this, okay? We are full of confidence." The students reacted very fiercely, as if they had been greatly insulted. Fang Yen waved his hand, motioning for everyone to quiet down, and said, "I will first read a paragraph for everyone. Everyone listen to what I have written." Fang Yen cleared his throat and said, "I fear the starry sky, because it is endless, and makes people realize their own insignificance. I cherish morality, because it makes people realize their own shortcomings and re-establish their own beliefs. I respect my opponent, because he defeated me with great strength, woke me up, and let me taste the taste of defeat and tears of humiliation. I've fantasized countless times that I'm on the winning side. Even in my dreams, I still hope so. How can I lose? I'm so strong. How can I lose? My journey is the galaxy and the distance. Yes, I am very strong. But my opponent is even stronger. My journey is the galaxy and the distance, but my opponent's journey is a place that I can't see. My opponent is handsome, wise, gentle, and kind. He respects the school leaders, unites with fellow teachers, cares for every student, and truly treats every student as his own child." The students' faces were red, and their breathing was rapid. Chuanjiashe clenched his fists, wishing he could rush up and tear the letter of apology into pieces. "Mr. Fang, how could he write such a letter of apology?" Fang Yen glanced at the students below the stage and said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, this letter of apology is written by me to teacher Zhang Yu." Chapter 179. In the examination room, the students were all engrossed in answering their papers. Only the slight breathing and the rustling sound of the pen tip sliding on the paper could be heard. Fang Yen and a language teacher named Li Xiaowei were invigilating the second-year mathematics exam at the same time. Li Xiaowei walked around the examination room. Her small eyes behind the thick glasses were extremely sharp. She took in every student's every move. She was a very responsible invigilator. Fang Yen sat on the podium. His eyes were gentle and smiling as he glanced at the students' answers. Most of the students were well behaved. They were either thinking with their heads down or answering quickly on the draft paper. However, there were also some students who tried to take a shortcut and directly copied other people's learning results onto their own papers. Fang Yen stared at a target. This was a little fatso wearing rimless glasses. He looked simple and honest. The pen in his hand never stopped. However, from time to time, he would raise his head to look at Fang Yen or glance at Li Xiaowei's position. This had already exposed his absent-mindedness and guilty conscience. "I'm telling you, don't have any illusions. Everyone has to rely on their own ability to take the exam. If I find anyone cheating, the papers will be confiscated. All the results will be invalid. I'll even have to ask your parents to come." Li Xiaowei had also discovered some of the potential enemies in the classroom, so she threatened them sternly. Most of the students lowered their heads to answer their papers. Some students, in order to prove their innocence, bravely raised their heads and smiled at Li Xiaowei. They looked for the students who might have cheated with her. Fatso also raised his head and smiled. However, the smile on his face was a little unnatural. In the eyes of the adults, students at this age did not have mature acting skills. Li Xiaowei walked past Fatso. At this moment, a ball of paper from the next table flew towards little Fatso. This kid had an accomplice. Li Xiaowei seemed to have grown glasses on the back of her head. She suddenly turned around and looked around. Little Fatso's face was pale. He lowered his head and did not dare to breathe. Even though it was a cool and rainy day, his forehead was still dripping with sweat. His unusual behavior immediately attracted Li Xiaohui's attention. She rushed in front of little Fatso and pulled out his test paper. Her eyes were like radar as she scanned little Fatso's desk. He put away his draft paper, opened his pencil case, and even unscrewed the cylindrical pen he used to answer questions to see if there was anything hidden in it. No evidence of cheating was found. "Stand up," Li Xiaohui said in a low voice. Fatso's legs were trembling as he stood up shakily. "Tell me, where is the answer hidden?" Li Xiaohui glanced at Fatso's body and clothes and asked aloud. "Teacher, there is no answer," Fatso said through gritted teeth. "No? Not as scared as you?" Li Xiaohui sneered. "Teacher, my body isn't good. I'm sick." "Sick? I think it's a mental illness, right?" Li Xiaohui was very angry and dissatisfied with Fatso. However, she couldn't find evidence of Fatso's cheating, so she couldn't continue to harp on it. It would delay Fatso's exam time and affect the other students' exam state. "I'm telling you, Zhang Sanxin, I'm telling you, I'm watching you. If you dare to cheat, don't blame me for being rude to you." "Teacher, I won't," Fatso replied in a low voice. "Sit down," Li Xiaohui said. Fatso sat down and took the pen to write and draw on the draft paper. He looked like he was doing the math seriously. Li Xiaohui stood next to Fatso and stared at him for a while. She really couldn't find anything suspicious, so she turned and left. When Li Xiaohui left, little Fatso breathed a long sigh of relief. He glanced at the ground. There was a rolled-up piece of waste paper. Because it was in the corner of the table, it was hard to see it. He stretched out one of his feet and tried to pick up the small ball of paper with his other foot. At this moment, a large hand reached over and nimbly picked up the ball of paper from the ground. Fang Yan held the paper ball in his hand and looked at little Fatso thoughtfully. He looked like he knew everything. Little Fatso's pupils expanded, and his face turned purple. He was scared out of his wits. The sweat on his forehead was even denser, and his expression was even more embarrassed. He looked at Fang Yan with pleading eyes, like a pitiful puppy begging for a bone that could save its life. Li Xiaohui saw Fang Yan's action and quickly walked over. "What's the matter?" Li Xiaohui asked. "It's nothing," Fang Yan said with a smile. "We have to remind the students to try their best to maintain the cleanliness of the examination room during the exam. Don't litter." As Fang Yan spoke, he flicked his finger gently, and the paper ball flew toward the waste paper basket in the corner of the classroom. "Mr. Fang," Li Xiaohui shouted, but she was still a step too late. She said anxiously, "Mr. Fang, this may be the evidence of students cheating. How can you not open it and check it?" After that, Li Xiaohui glared at Fang Yan fiercely and ran toward the waste paper basket in the corner of the classroom. She searched for a while, but she couldn't find the paper ball that Fang Yan had just flicked in. There was a pile of charred paper ash on the surface of the waste paper basket, which seemed to be the paper ball that Fang Yan had just thrown in. But how could it be charred? Li Xiaohui couldn't get any evidence, so this matter could only be dropped. Fang Yan looked at Fatso and said, "Do your best in the exam." After that, he turned around and walked toward the podium again. The bell rang. Under the urging of Fang Yan and Li Xiaohui, the students began to hand in their papers. When Fatso handed in his paper, he glanced at Fang Yan and left without saying anything. Fang Yan saw that the back of his paper was a large blank. Li Xiaohui saw that there was no communication between Fang Yan and Fatso, so she concentrated on sorting out the papers in her hands. She sealed them in a bag and marked them together. After the math exam, this morning's work was temporarily over. Fang Yan and Li Xiaohui sent the papers to the Academic Affairs office together. They had a short meeting in the office to make a summary, and then everyone went home to eat. When Fang Yan walked out of the tree-lined path, there was a voice behind him, "Mr. Fang." Fang Yan turned around and saw the cheating Fatso running toward him. Fatso was panting. It seemed that he rarely participated in sports. He stood in front of Fang Yan and said gratefully, "Mr. Fang, thank you. If it weren't for you, I would be finished today." "Why?" Fang Yan asked sternly. Fatso and Zhang Sanxin looked at Fang Yan with a puzzled face. Since you know the consequences are so serious, why did you choose this method of cheating? Fang Yan asked aloud. My math scores are not good. This time the questions are so difficult. Have you thought about it? Fang Yan looked at Zhang Sanxin and asked, if your paper ball fell into the hands of Teacher Li, what kind of consequences would you have to bear? If I had the same idea as Teacher Li, what kind of consequences would you have to bear? So I'm really grateful to Mr. Fang. If it weren't for Mr. Fang, all my results would have been cancelled, and my parents would have been called over. Fang Yan shook his head and said, Zhang Sanxin, I helped you not to make you thank me. I helped you not to let you realize that the cost of making a mistake is not that high, but to have a fluke in the future. I always believe that everyone should bear the consequences of making a mistake. You obtained your results by cheating. Isn't this unfair to those students who really rely on their own efforts to get the results? Mr. Fang, I'm sorry. Zhang Sanxin said with a ashamed expression. You can borrow money, but don't think you can borrow other people's knowledge. Knowledge is always in the hands of the real owner. Others can't borrow it or take it away. Even if you get it temporarily, it may be taken away at any time. You even have to pay a heavy price for it. Fang Yan looked at Zhang Sanxin and said, as a teacher, compared to your previous cheating behavior, I prefer the blank paper you handed in later. You may not have good results, but you proved that you are very honest. Honesty is also a very important advantage, even more important than getting good grades. Fang Yan patted Zhang Sanxin's shoulder and said, take care. After that, Fang Yan turned and left. Zhang Sanxin stood in the same place and looked at Fang Yan's departing figure. There was something in his eyes that he didn't have before. Mr. Fang, thank you. Zhang Sanxin murmured. Enemies don't meet unless they meet. When Fang Yan walked to the small door to enter the teacher's living area, he happened to meet Zhang Yu, who was also preparing to go home. Fang Yan. Zhang Yu's voice seemed murderous. Hello, Miss Zhang. Teacher Zhang, are you preparing to return home for dinner? Fang Yan asked with a chuckle. Fang Yan, you are shameless. Zhang Yu shouted angrily, you didn't win and I didn't lose. Why do you have to read the apology letter to me in the classroom in front of the students? Fang Yan thought about it and said, I didn't say that I couldn't read it before the bet. You also know that my writing isn't good. I'm afraid that if I don't write well, I'll embarrass Teacher Zhang. A good horse needs a good saddle. Teacher Zhang is a great scholar of our Vermilion Bird Academy. Even if he were to apologize to someone, the letter of apology should be written with great literary talent. How do you know that I will lose? Why isn't it you who will lose? Zhang Yu was really angry. Fang Yan, I tell you, you will lose. When the time comes, don't blame me for not giving you face. Miss Zhang, you and I are both teachers. Teacher should act like a teacher. I believe that Miss Zhang will not do anything too excessive. Fang Yan said with a gentle smile. Chapter 180. The rain is drifting, just like our damp and flying mood at this moment. Wearing our beautiful coats, holding a colorful umbrella, we went out and walked in the rain. Carefully feel the beauty of the rain, feel the breath of our youth. What is youth? It's electricity, it's light, it's hard work, it's the courage to win first place. It's you like me and I like you, it's infinite possibilities and opportunities. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the host of the campus radio program, Little Wu. According to the previous program routine, now is the time to recite the poems sent by the Poetry Club or recommend a few pieces of music to suit the occasion. But today will be different. We all know that two extremely popular language teachers in the school once made a bet, betting which class's language scores would be higher. The loser would have to recite a letter of apology provided by the winner on the campus radio program. I don't know if everyone is looking forward to this, but personally, I'm looking forward to it. Wow, the whole school was in an uproar. It was after school, and the students were either preparing to go home or walking back to their dorms. Hearing the campus radio program from the school loudspeaker, Everyone couldn't help but stop or smile knowingly. Oh my God, are they really going to recite the letter of apology on the radio? That's so embarrassing. A girl with long hair and the demeanor of a goddess exclaimed. Isn't that right? If it were me, I wouldn't do such a thing. The round-faced girl next to her echoed. You don't know, right? The gossipy guy wanted to please the two girls, so he pretended to be mysterious and said, It said that because of this matter, the school leaders specially found the two teachers, Fang Yan and Zhang Yu, to mediate, but both of them didn't accept the mediation. They must insist on going according to the previous content of the competition. What a character. I like it. Exactly. The demeanor of a scholar. Then, let's welcome Teacher Zhang Yu. Teacher Zhang Yu, can you say hello to the students? The voice of the host, Little Wu, continued to resound in the campus through the campus radio. Silence. There was no sound from the radio for a long time. Miss Zhang, Little Wu reminded. Seeing that Zhang Yu was still unwilling to speak, Little Wu hurriedly explained, Miss Zhang is brewing her emotions, please wait a moment. I'm Zhang Yu. Zhang Yu's hoarse and dull voice finally came out from the broadcast. A single sentence from Kiran sent the whole Rosefinch High into an uproar. Heavens, Teacher Zhang Yu really came to apologize? Shouldn't it be Fang Yan? Fang Yan is teaching Class 9. How could Class 9 possibly surpass Class 1? The 9th class is really impressive this time. I apologize to Teacher Fang Yan with utmost sincerity and humility. I was wrong. I severely underestimated Teacher Fang Yan's ability and the strength of Class 9 students. I am Mosquito. Teacher Fang Yan is Jiao Long. I am a flashlight. Teacher Fang Yan is the big sun. I am a bicycle. Teacher Fang Yan is a Ferrari. The faces of Class 9 students showed puzzled expressions. Huang Haoren, did I hear it wrong? Is this a letter of apology written by Mr. Fang? Yes, it shouldn't be, right? We've all heard Mr. Fang's letter of apology. Mr. Fang read it in public in the classroom. It should be. Huang Haoren was also puzzled and said, This is the content of the bet. Presumably, Zhang Yu wouldn't dare to change the content of the letter of apology. Besides, there's no such way to change it. It must be known that although the letter of apology read by Fang Yan sounded very immoral, it was still within the acceptable range of normal people. Like this time, Mosquito and Jiao Long, Bicycle and Farron. Who would have the nerve to praise themselves like that? I am acutely conscious of my own error. I only have myself to blame for this punishment. I shouldn't have taken the initiative to provoke Teacher Fang Yan, and even more so, I shouldn't have forced him to accept my challenge. In a situation where he repeatedly rejected me, I was still unwilling to let him go. Teacher Fang Yan, I was wrong. In order to express my apology, I want to give you a tongue twister. I hope you like it. Students, did you hear that? Teacher Zhang Yu is going to say a tongue twister, the host, Little Wu, said happily. Darkening? Zhang Yu finished reading. Everyone was dumbfounded. What were they talking about? He only heard a long part of hui hui hui, but he didn't understand the meaning of this tongue twister at all. Mr. Zhang Yu? Little Nothingness asked timidly, May I ask what you're reciting is black ash fat ash will volatilize gray ash will be taboo black ash will be black ash flower will return to fey. Ash black fertilizer will evaporate and turn into ash. Is this it? I'm done reading it. Zhang Yu roared angrily, and then there was a loud bang from the broadcast. Everyone knew that it was the sound of Teacher Zhang Yu slamming the door and leaving. There was a long period of silence from the broadcast, as if the host had also disconnected. After a long time, the host, Little Wu, sighed softly and said, Teacher Zhang Yu is from Shaman. Is this really appropriate for him? Is this appropriate? Lu Chaoga asked. In Lu Chaoga's office, she and Fang Yan had just enjoyed Teacher Zhang Yu's performance on the campus radio station. That hui 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 part almost made her drop her jaw in shock. What? Miss Zhang is from Shaman. Fang Yan looked shocked. I didn't know that at all. I just felt that when he talked to me, the words gray and fly weren't very coherent. I didn't expect that I would guess it right. Lu Chaoge drank a few mouthfuls of tea, and then looked at Fang Yan's face again. She said, I know that you didn't write this script before. Your apology letter has been read in class, and I have the original text here. As Lu Chaoge spoke, she took out a piece of paper from the folder and handed it over. Fang Yan took the paper and looked at it. It was the hipster version of the apology letter that he had read in class. I fear the starry sky because it is so deep that it makes people feel small. I changed it, Fang Yan said. Why did you change it? That was a trick to lure the enemy, Fang Yan said. Lure the enemy? When I wrote the apology letter, the exam results hadn't come out yet. Although I kept saying that we would win and I said that to everyone, but how did I know that I would definitely win? What if I lost? So, you wrote such an apology letter that Zhang Yu could completely accept. When the exam results came out, if you lost, he could only write an apology letter according to your standards. Is that right? Something like that, Fang Yan said. In the end, you won, but you gave him another apology letter. You can't say that. Fang Yan waved his hand. I didn't want the relationship between my colleagues to be too stiff, and I didn't want others to call me despicable and shameless. My nature is actually not bad. You have to admit that I am a kind person. Something happened later, which prompted me to make such a decision. What happened? After the math exam, he blocked me at the small door and said that I would definitely lose. He also said that he would use the cruelest way to humiliate me. I thought about it. I can't lose, Fang Yan explained, feeling wronged. So he's at a disadvantage. Lu Chaoge was silent again. The topic Terminator always had this ability. After he said something, you wouldn't know how to continue. You don't think that I am a vicious person, right? Fang Yan asked cautiously. No, Lu Chaoge said. That's good. Fang Yan was happy again. It was very difficult for me to make such a decision. I hesitated for a long time and wrote 2 notes to draw lots. Finally, I decided to choose this apology letter. Of course, I didn't ask teacher Zhang Yu to report his 3 measurements in the apology letter. This is already a very kind act, right? Because his 3 measurements are really terrible. Fang Yan. Lu Chaoge interrupted Fang Yan's topic. If she let him continue, he would become a national hero. Go ahead. Fang Yan smiled gently and made an inviting gesture. Congratulations. Lu Chaoge said. This is a subversion. In the past, Class 1 has always been Class 1. No class could surpass them. Even in a single subject, it was the same. Fang Yan and Zhang Yu's bet ended with Class 9 winning Class 1. Class 1 and Class 9 had the same number of people. Class 1's average score for a single subject was 117 points, while Class 9's average score was 121 points. Class 9's average score was 4 points higher than Class 1's. Don't look down on these 4 points. In the past, Class 9's results were far ahead of other classes. Even Class 2, which was the closest to Class 1, was a long distance behind them. Not to mention Class 9, which was ranked at the bottom. This time, after the change of the language teacher, Fang Yan carried out a series of new teaching methods to stimulate the students' learning enthusiasm. After this competition, Class 9 actually defeated the King of Champions class. Therefore, it was not an exaggeration for Lu Chaoge to say that this was a subversion. More importantly, not only did Class 9 take home the first place award for the average score of the language subjects, but they also took home the first place for the language subjects, the first place for the mathematics subjects, and the first place for the other subjects. That's right, only the Rosefinch goddess, Xianxia, could have such a heaven-defying performance. Tangqing also performed quite well. His total score and average score were among the top 5 in the school. He was following closely behind Xianxia. The results obtained by Class 9 this time could only be described as dazzling. Through this battle, the sarcasm, doubts, and blows that some of the senior teachers in the school had towards Fang Yan had all vanished into thin air. Fang Yan had become Rosefinch Secondary's true idol and ace teacher. Chapter 181. No one disliked compliments, and Fang Huohua was no exception. He looked at Lu Chaoge, his handsome face slightly embarrassed, and said, "Actually, it's not a big deal. I just achieved a little bit of extraordinary results in an ordinary position." Lu Chaoge thought to herself, "That's right, but why does it feel strange and absurd when it comes from Fang Yan's mouth?" Seeing that Lu Chaoge did not speak, Fang Yan pretended to be indifferent, but very concerned, and asked, "There's only verbal praise from the school leaders, and no physical rewards?" "I'm going to buy rosefinch," Lu Chaoge said. Fang Yan was shocked and said, "You don't have to be so polite, right? Although I've made some contributions to the school, it's something I should do. You don't have to give me the whole rosefinch, do you?" Fang Yan quickly calmed down, thought about it seriously, and said, "Is it because I helped you before? If it's because of that, I'm willing to accept it." Lu Chaoge was now the second largest shareholder of Longtime Group, and she was a super rich person with a net worth of billions. If she bought a school for him because she was grateful for his selfless help and life-saving grace, it was completely understandable. Lu Chaoge looked at Fang Yan calmly and said, "You've already used your results to prove to everyone that this teaching method is excellent and effective. However, if I want to promote it to the whole school, there will still be a lot of resistance. So, I want to buy rosefinch." "I'll be the principal?" "I'll be the principal." "You'll be the principal yourself? Aren't you going to work at Longtime Group? Chairman or general manager or something?" "Yes. I'll continue to stay at Rosefinch." "What about me?" "Rosefinch Senior High School's Class 9 form teacher and language teacher. Class 9 needs you. The practice and consolidation of Fang's scene reenactment teaching method also needs you. We need better results to support my teaching reform. I need you to lead the students of Class 9 to achieve even more outstanding results and create even more dazzling miracles. The higher the position, the greater the responsibility. The greater the responsibility, the higher the official position, right?" Fang Yan decided to bargain with Lu Chaoge. "Rosefinch Secondary's managing vice principal, Class 9's homeroom teacher and language teacher. I think this new position suits me very well." "That's what you think," Lu Chaoge said. "If an overly young guy who had only been teaching for less than 2 months was appointed as the school's vice principal, the students' parents would begin to doubt the quality of the school's teaching." Fang Yan's resume was too thin. He needed to produce more achievements, or at the very least, he needed to wait for more years. "Let's schedule a time to talk to Director Zheng," Lu Chaoge said. "I think if you propose it, he'll consider it carefully." Zheng Tiancheng's weakness was in Fang Yan's hands. If Fang Yan proposed a purchase plan to Zheng Tiancheng would indeed consider it. Of course, the key was to make Zheng Tiancheng profitable. You want the horse to run, but you don't give it grass. How can you be a leader? Fang Yan said with a bitter smile. After saying that, he suddenly realized that there seemed to be something wrong with what he said. At this moment, Fang Yan's cell phone rang. He took out his cell phone and looked at the caller ID. It was his grandmother's house number. Fang Yan answered the phone and said with a smile, "Grandmother? Is that you?" His grandmother's doting voice said, "Brat, how do you know it's me? Can't it be your grandfather?" Fang Yan said with a smile, "If grandfather wants to talk to me, he'll call me directly to the study to talk." "You're smart. Fang Yan, come home for lunch today." "Grandmother, this afternoon I may." His grandmother directly interrupted Fang Yan's explanation and said, "Call little Lu. I haven't seen her for a few days, and I really miss her. Is the injury on her leg all right? Little Lu is usually busy with work. You have to take care of her and don't let her fall or hurt herself. You can talk to her directly." Fang Yan handed over the phone and said to Lu Chaoge, "My grandmother wants to talk to you." Lu Chaoge took the phone, and a rare smile appeared on her face. Her voice also became soft and charming. She said, "Grandmother, are you looking for me?" Fang Yan was speechless as he looked at Lu Chaoge, who was chatting with her grandmother in a low voice. He wondered if there was any misunderstanding between them. The negotiation was very successful. Lu Chaoge bought all of Zheng Tiancheng's shares of Rosefinch High School at a premium of 20%. Zheng Tiancheng looked at Fang Yan and said with a sigh, "I've seen you twice, and I've lost twice. I, Zheng Tiancheng, have never been so passive in my life. Fang Yan, you're my nemesis. Fang Yan waved his hand with a smile and said, the first time was not Director Zheng's loss, but young Master Zheng's. This time, it's not Director Zheng's loss, but Director Zheng's win. Who would refuse a person who gives them money? Jing Tiancheng laughed and patted Fang Yan's shoulder hard, saying, Rosefinch Secondary is too small. It's really unfair for you to be a teacher. My original promise is still valid. If you're willing to work for me, I'll give you all I promised. No, I'll give you double. If you have any conditions, we can also talk about it in detail. To be honest, Director Zheng's conditions made me very tempted. I've also hesitated countless times about whether to work for Director Zheng. However, I still decided to refuse Director Zheng's invitation and sincerely apologize to you. But I can't bear to part with those children's clear eyes and happy smiling faces, Fang Yan said. After refusing Zheng Tiancheng's invitation on the way back to school, Lu Chaoge couldn't help but ask, are you really refusing Zheng Tiancheng's luxury car, mansion, and high salary because you can't bear to part with those children's happy smiling faces and clear eyes? Not exactly, Fang Yan said. I don't think his female secretary is as good-looking as you. Fang Yan glanced at the rearview mirror and said with a smile, we're being followed. Lu Chaoge's eyes were cold as she asked, who could it be? I also think it's strange, Fang Yan said. Logically speaking, you've already become a major shareholder of Longtime Group. What's done is done, and others have no reason to touch you anymore. Who could it be? Call the police, Lu Chaoge said. Not for the time being. Fang Yan said, aren't you curious about who is hiding in the dark like a rat in a sewer and biting people? Don't take risks. Trust me, Fang Yan said. Fang Yan jerked the steering wheel, and the car rushed in a direction that deviated from the original route. The car behind him didn't hesitate and immediately followed. They're quite open and aboveboard. They're following us in such a high-profile manner. Fang Yan said with a sneer, either they're skilled and bold, or they're a group of idiots. I really hope it's the latter. The car sped all the way through the bustling city, through the remote streets, past the suburban houses, and finally arrived at the edge of the Yantian port. This was an abandoned port. Ever since the construction of the Huaqing port in the east, this place had been deserted. The weather was harsh, and there were no signs of people. The port looked dilapidated. Screech. The black Buick SUV that followed closely behind stopped. Two men in black suits in the car looked around vigilantly, and then their eyes fell on the champagne-colored BMW that was parked in the middle of the square of the port. The windows were transparent, and they couldn't see anyone in the car from where they were. The two men looked at each other, and then they opened the door and got out of the car. They reached into their pockets, took out their pistols, and pulled out the safety bolt. The two men held their guns and carefully surrounded the BMW. The bald man stared up, and the muzzle was pointed at the car door, ready to kill the enemy that rushed out of the car at any time. The man with the crew cut leaned down at a 90-degree angle, and with one hand on the ground, he raised the gun with the other hand and aimed at the chassis of the BMW. He was worried that the target would hide underneath and launch a surprise attack. They attacked from the top and attacked from the bottom, and they cooperated well. There was nothing suspicious in or out of the car. Where was he? The two men were well trained, and they immediately looked around with their backs against each other, ready to find the enemy that might be hiding in the dock's cargo container or somewhere else. Are you looking for me? Fang Yan stood beside them with a smile and asked aloud. Fang Yan didn't go far, and he had been hiding by the side of the BMW. However, he wasn't in the car, nor was he in the bottom of the car. Instead, he used gecko climbing to hang his body on the door on the other side of the BMW. The men in black didn't find any trace of Fang Yan in the car, and thought that Fang Yan was hiding in the junk container not far away. This gave Fang Yan the time and opportunity to quietly approach them. The two men were shocked, and they raised their hands to shoot. Fang Yan wouldn't give them the chance to shoot. He slashed with his hands twice, but only a "kacha" sound could be heard. The two pistols fell to the ground at the same time, and the two men's arm bones were broken at the same time. Fang Yan tiptoed, and a black pistol left the ground and flew back into the air. He picked up the pistol, put the muzzle on the bald man's head, and said with a smile, "Guess if there are any bullets in this gun?" The bald man didn't guess, because he knew better than anyone that there were 6 bullets in the gun. It was full. This was his gun. But Fang Yen slapped the long-haired man next to him in the face. The long-haired man's mouth was bleeding, and there was a purplish-red handprint on his face. He looked at Fang Yen angrily, feeling that he had been slapped in the face for no reason at all. Guess why he didn't guess? Fang Yen asked. Chapter 182. That's his gun, said the long-haired man. Because it's his gun and he knows how many bullets are in the magazine, so he doesn't want to guess? Asked Fang Yen. As he spoke, he slapped the bald man in the face again and shouted, "If you know the answer, why don't you tell me? You think my question is too simple, don't you?" The bald man clenched his fists and his bones cracked. But Fang Yen slapped the bald man in the face again and scolded, "Look, I know you're not convinced. If I ask you why 1 + 1 = 2, do you think you can solve it?" The bald man was stunned. He wanted to find an opportunity to fight back, but the slaps had shattered his momentum. The long-haired man didn't dare to act rashly. His right arm bone had been cut off by Fang Yan's knife. His combat power had been greatly reduced, and his gun had fallen into the enemy's hands. If he fought back, would he blow up the bald man's head? But Fang Yen slapped the bald man in the face again and said, "Answer my question. How many bullets are in the magazine?" 6, said the bald man. He knew that answering this question would be very shameful. Even his companions would ridicule him for having no backbone. But was this the time to talk about backbone? This guy was simply a mad dog who didn't play by common sense. If he didn't answer, he had no doubt that this guy would beat him to death. Yes, he wanted obedience. Absolute control over them. Only in this way could he get more useful information from their mouths. The bald man had studied criminal psychology and knew what Fang Yen was doing. This was an extremely difficult opponent. Fang Yen reached out to slap the long-haired man. The long-haired man hurriedly said, "It's 6. There are 6 bullets in the gun." He guessed correctly. The long-haired man was so clever that Fang Yen didn't know whether to take back his hand or continue to slap him. Thinking that he was in a dilemma because of a gangster, Fang Yen was a little angry. He slapped the long-haired man's face hard and scolded, "Did I ask you if he guessed correctly?" The long-haired man was on the verge of tears. "What exactly do you want to ask?" "I don't want to ask anything, I just want to slap you," Fang Yen said confidently. The bald man and the long-haired man looked at each other in dismay. How did they meet such a freak? Because he valued his own life too much, Fang Yen would never tolerate those who attempted to harm him. If someone slapped him once, he would definitely return the favor with 10 slaps. If someone kicked him, he would find a way to break the leg that kicked him. If someone wanted him dead, then sorry, he wouldn't let them live a good life. If that person was Yi Ro, the first 3 conditions could be ignored. The 2 of them had been following him all the way. They were armed with guns and were extremely dangerous. Naturally, Fang Yen wouldn't be polite to them. "I won't kill you." Fang Yen said, "I know better than anyone that killing is a crime." The bald man and the long-haired man were relieved at the same time. As long as they could keep their lives, it was fine. They were afraid that this idiot would not care and directly beat them to death. As long as there's life, there's hope. But Fang Yen stuffed the gun in his hand into the long-haired man's broken hand. Then he raised his arm and aimed the gun at the bald man's head. "You will kill yourselves." The 2 men's faces were ashen. Could it be played like this? Why didn't they think of it? "So, now can you tell me who sent you to kill me?" Fang Yan's face was cold and his voice was extremely fierce. "We're not here to kill people. We're here to deliver a letter." The broken arm was unbearable and his forehead was covered with sweat. It was cold, but the long-haired man's clothes had been soaked with sweat. "What letter?" Fang Yan asked. "To deliver a letter to Miss Lu. Someone wants to see her." The long-haired man said. Fang Yen looked at the long-haired man thoughtfully and said, "Originally, you wanted to kidnap her, right?" The two men were silent. The order they received was indeed to deliver a letter. However, there were many ways to deliver a letter. They could deliver the letter to Lu Chaoga out of courtesy. They could also deliver the letter to Lu Chaoga and bring Lu Chaoga and the letter back at the same time. If it was the latter, it would be easier to negotiate. This was also the reason why they followed closely and unscrupulously prepared to take Lu Chaoga away. Of course, they also received news that the male follower of Lu Chaoga was good at martial arts. But so what? No matter how good his martial arts was, he would still be afraid of a kitchen knife. With a gun in hand, the world was mine. No matter how good his martial arts were, wasn't it something that could be solved with a bullet? The ideal was too full, but the reality was too shameless. It seems that I guessed correctly. Fang Yen said. Where's the letter? The bald man reached into his arms and took out a rolled-up paper ball from his pocket. Open it. Fang Yen said. The paper ball was dirty, and there was a reddish-brown liquid on it. Fang Yen wouldn't reach out to touch it himself. When the paper ball was opened, it turned out to be a piece of charred flesh. This is... Fang Yen paused, and his eyes became extremely sharp. Human skin? Because there was blood on it, it was likely to be a piece of flesh cut from a living person. What kind of person could actually do such a thing that was worse than a beast? Lu Chaoga came out from hiding. She had been hiding in an abandoned container not far away. As soon as the car stopped, Fang Yen drove her out and asked her to immediately find a place to hide. Then he magically disappeared from her field of vision. When Lu Chaoga saw the piece of flesh wrapped in white paper, her expression changed greatly, and she asked anxiously, "Where is she?" The criminal used this piece of flesh to invite Lu Chaoga, which proved that the person had a close relationship with Lu Chaoga. But what kind of person was it? Fang Yen was full of doubts. "Come with us. Someone wants to see you," the bald man said. Fang Yen slapped the bald man's face and scolded, "You think we'll go just because you say so?" A captive should have the awareness of a captive. Fang Yen didn't like the bald man's tone and way of speaking to Lu Chaoga. It was too aggressive. "I'll go with you," Lu Chaoga said straightforwardly. The bald man glanced at Fang Yen and didn't dare to speak rashly. But Fang Yen slapped the bald man's face again and scolded, "Didn't you hear what my friend said? She said she wanted to go with you. What do you mean by not saying a word?" Lu Chaoga looked at Fang Yen and said, "You go back. This matter has nothing to do with you." Fang Yen shook his head and said, "Can I go at this time? These people are vicious and cunning, and they can do anything. If I don't go with you, I'm afraid you won't have any chance of winning the negotiation. Don't worry, no matter what happens, I'll stand by your side." Fang Yan's worries weren't unreasonable. If they really wanted to negotiate with Lu Chaoga, a phone call or a text message would be enough to inform her. They were giving her flesh and kidnapping her. It didn't look like they were going to negotiate. Now, someone very important to Lu Chaoga had been taken hostage by them. If they captured Lu Chaoga, would there still be a need to negotiate? The other party could directly decide the outcome. Lu Chaoga looked hesitant, and finally nodded and said, "Thank you." Fang Yen smiled and didn't speak. Lu Chaoga drove, and Fang Yen sat in the back, accompanying and supervising the bald man and the long-haired man, who tried to kidnap her but were kidnapped by Fang Yen. To Fang Yan's surprise, without the help of the bandits, Lu Chaoga drove her BMW to an old neighborhood. The car stopped in front of the villa, and Lu Chaoga pushed the door open and ran to knock. No one answered, and the villa's yard was strangely quiet. Lu Chaoga knocked again, and the door of the living room opened. The mute nanny ran to open the door with a frightened expression. She saw Lu Chaoga and desperately gestured to her not to go in. It was dangerous inside. Lu Chaoga nodded, but still stubbornly walked past her. Fang Yen drove the bald man and the long-haired man out of the car like ducks, and took them to the villa's yard. "Are all your men up there?" Fang Yen asked. "Yes," the bald man replied, and there was a flash of fierceness in his eyes. Their men were all up there, and Fang Yen would soon get the retribution he deserved. "How many of you are there?" The bald man didn't answer. 10? Or more than 10? Fang Yen looked at the long-haired man and asked, "Do they all have guns?" "No," the long-haired man replied. Fang Yen narrowed his eyes and smiled. "It's not a good habit to lie." He kicked the bald man's calf in the knee, and with a crisp crack, the bald man's calf was broken by Fang Yen's kick. The bald man screamed, lost his balance, and fell to the ground. The long-haired man turned to escape, but Fang Yen had already grabbed his neck. Without waiting for him to react, he had already stretched out his hand and broken the bones in his other arm. The long-haired man fell to the ground and screamed. Fang Yen walked over and stepped on his ankle. With a light tap of his toes, the bones in his foot were broken by Fang Yen. Both the bald man and the long-haired man had completely lost the ability to fight. Hearing the sound behind them, Lu Chaoga and the mute nanny turned to look at the same time. Fang Yen smiled and said embarrassedly, "I'm going to lighten the load first. There are many people inside. I'm afraid I can't beat them." Chapter 183. The room was shrouded in darkness. The air was filled with the choking smell of mold, as well as a disgusting stench that made people want to vomit. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, it would be hard to imagine that there was such a human leg in the world. Scorched black, withered, full of holes, white skin and green veins could not be seen, only strange scars of different sizes and blood dripping. Disgusting. The handsome man frowned deeply. He looked at the flesh that had been peeled off and said with disgust, "Is this still a woman's leg? Look at it without a trace of lust. Wild animals are nothing more than this." The woman's body was tied to the iron chair. One leg was tied to the chair leg and the other was stretched out. Blood was rapidly seeping out from several places where the skin had been cut off. The bright red blood dripped drop by drop on the brown carpet in the room, mixed with the damp and mold smell of the old carpet that had not been changed for decades. This was the source of the stench. "He is a butcher." The man pointed at the big man who had cut off the meat and said, "He used to kill pigs, now he kills people. He can kill a pig with one cut without any pain, and he can make a pig scream in pain for 3 to 5 hours without stopping. Humans are the same." "Mad dog. You mad dog." The woman roared hoarsely. Her face was ferocious, and there was a murderous light in her eyes. No one would doubt that if she was given a chance, she would cut off the man's flesh and stuff it into her mouth, chewing it with blood and swallowing it without hesitation. "Thank you for the compliment." The man laughed. "Hearing you scold me like that, it reminds me of a story. It is said that Qiang Longtan's father-in-law once said that his son-in-law was a scalper and a dog. You scolded me as a mad dog, isn't that the same as Qiang Longtan? I quite admire him. You mad dog demon. I was wrong to trust you. No, no, no." The man waved his hand. "You've never believed me. You just had to use me. If not for me, if not for us, would Qiang Longtan return the fat piece of meat that he ate to you? Impossible. You're even more cruel and disgusting than him." "I've never denied that," the man said. "But so what? Verbal attacks are also a form of attack, but that's too weak. All these years, you've been cursing and spitting at Qiang Longtan every day, but haven't they been living a good life?" The man gave Butcher a look, and Butcher raised the blade and stabbed the thigh. "Ah!" The woman struggled desperately. The man sat on the chair, enjoying the woman's screams and ugly expression. He said, "To be honest, your only value to me now is to make your beautiful niece listen to me. You don't know her at all." The woman's body was shaking in pain, and her teeth were chattering. "She won't give in. No one can change what she has decided." "Really?" The man held the teacup in his hand and gently blew on the tea leaves. "I don't think she has the capital to bargain with me," he said. Dong dong. There was a knock on the door. A middle-aged man in a black suit walked in and said in a deep voice, "Young master, they're here. Baldy and Ruler are lying in the yard, injured." "Huh? How exciting." The man laughed. "Then let's invite our young Miss Lu and her personal guardian angel in. I believe that she will soon know that she has made a stupid decision." The man responded and turned to leave. Soon, Lu Chaoga and Fang Yan walked in. Although the room was dim, Lu Chaoga could still see her aunt tied to the chair. She stood at the door of the study and said in a cold and resolute tone, "I know what you want. If anything happens to her, I'd rather destroy that thing than give it to you." TSK, this is not the negotiation quality that an excellent heir should have. The man sitting on the sofa turned around and smiled at Lu Xiaoga, who had a fierce look in his eyes. The first reaction of Fang Yan when he walked into the room was to hold his breath because of the stench of blood on the ground. Then his eyes were attracted by the horribly injured woman on the chair. When he saw the handsome man who had turned around, he almost stopped breathing for a moment. It was like a thunderbolt in his head. He was shaken to the point that he was about to fall and woke up instantly. "It's you." Fang Yan looked at the man in surprise and said. The man looked at Fang Yan and said, "Mr. Fang, we meet again." Fang Yan looked at the handsome man and looked at the woman sitting on the chair whose head was burned. Finally, his eyes stopped on Lu Chaoga's face and murmured, "I understand. I understand everything." When he said this, he felt as if his chest was stabbed by a knife. He didn't have time to defend and didn't know how to dodge. He just took the knife. He let the cold blade pierce into his flesh and the deepest part of his bones. Agitated, the pain penetrated his heart. Lu Chaoga's face was pale, but she insisted on not turning around and making eye contact with Fang Yan. She was running away. "Do you feel like you've been betrayed? Do you feel like you're a failure? That you've been a pitiful chess piece from beginning to end?" The man laughed and said, "The woman you trusted the most, the woman you gave everything for, the woman you saved her life? To her, you're just a qualified bodyguard, a pretty good fighter, and a clown who's not trusted but is indispensable. Ha, Mr. Fang, you must be feeling terrible right now, right?" Lu Chaoga said through gritted teeth. "This is between us. It has nothing to do with him." Yes, this handsome man was Lu Shu, one of Huaqing's four beauties. Lu Shu was known as Huaqing's lover and Jiang Zhuliu's good friend. Back then, Lu Chaoga's aunt, Wang Lin, crawled out of a burning car and was saved by the Lu family. They healed her severely injured body, provided her with a place to hide, and provided her with many resources and bombs to take revenge on the Jiang father and son. Because of the Lu family's help, Wang Li survived. Also because of them adding fuel to the fire, the Jiang father and son were forced into a desperate situation and had to cut off one of their arms to protect themselves. Otherwise, how could they take revenge on Qiang Longtan and take back the shares of Longtu Group that belonged to her father if they only relied on the power of a disabled person like Wang Li and Lu Chaoga, who was closely monitored by the Jiang family? However, this answer was too shocking and cruel for Fang Yan. It turned out that the truth was not far away, but he was the only one who was kept in the dark. How can it not be related? Lu Shu corrected the problem in Lu Chaoga's words with a smile. If it wasn't for Mr. Fang's wonderful performance, how could our show go so smoothly? If it wasn't for his important appearance, how could you take revenge on Qiang Longtan and his son and get what you wanted? Also, the death of that security guard, seems like Mr. Fang was very angry at that time. You should be in a better mood now, right? Lu Shu raised his cup to Fang Yan and said with a smile, "Mr. Fang, I've always wanted to say something to thank you. But the last time we met, the time and place weren't right, so now I'll use tea in place of wine to toast you." With that, he finished the cup of warm tea in one gulp. Fang Yan's face was ashen, but he stood there without saying a word. At this time, words have lost the power they should have. Lu Shu felt bored, so he turned his eyes back to Lu Chaoga's face and said, "Miss Lu Chaoga, it seems that your bodyguard, Mr. Fang, will no longer help you after knowing the truth about you deceiving him. If that's the case, you don't even have the last bit of capital to negotiate with me. In that case, things will become much simpler." He stretched out his hand to Lu Chaoga and said, "You know you can't resist. So, give it to me. Give me everything I want." Lu Chaoga was as cold as ice, her fingernails pierced into her flesh and blood came out. She said, "When I came in, I've already made my attitude clear. Let her go and guarantee our safety, otherwise, I'd rather destroy it." "It's really surprising that you're so uncooperative." Lu Shu shook his head and sighed. Lu Chaoge, do you know? I've always had a high opinion of you. I feel that in this vast watching, in terms of intelligence and endurance, no one is better than you. You clearly know that you can't reverse the situation, yet you insist on bargaining with me. What's the point? How can I guarantee your safety? If I say that as long as you give me the thing, I'll guarantee that you'll live a long and safe life, do you believe me? Lu Shu stood up. His body was tall and slender, and his temperament was outstanding. His eyes were deep, and his face was as handsome as a European male model. Huaqing's public lover was a well-deserved reputation. He walked in front of Lu Chaoge and said with a smile, "You won't believe me. No matter what I say, you won't believe me. People like you won't believe anyone at all. I have to say, this is something that we can't imagine. Since verbal promises can't gain your trust, then we can only use our brains to think. What's in it for me to kill you? You should know, what I need is your father's work. Lu Jing, that trash, we sent him to hide for decades, but he still couldn't get the core technology we wanted. So, at this time, we have no choice but to ask you to help us. We were friends in the past, and will still be friends in the future, is that right?" You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.